Good morning, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by VoiDude, and Algared is not here. He did not get up. I think he
Got lost.
I think he forgot. Yeah, he got lost in Hurston, or the Uwe girls won't let him out of bed, or I got no idea what's going on. But we did give him a call, and he didn't answer. So you know what's going to happen? He's going to randomly pop up halfway through the stream and go, "Oh, I'm so sorry." So yeah, look forward to that. Other than that, we've already got ISC up, so we've got that to watch as well. Yeah. So what time is it for you where you are in South Africa at the moment? It must be an ungodly hour.
It's just on 10 p.m. Well, 10:05.
Oh, that's not too bad, actually. Well,
yeah, it's not
just,
too bad.
Just 5 past 6 a.m. here, so yeah. But we've been talking for what, last 20, 25 minutes, so yeah.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Hey, Starlet, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. What time's it in Thailand? I believe you're still in Thailand, Starlet. I could be wrong there. Might have put my mouth in it there, but yeah. What time is it for you? Anyway, it still baffles me that we get people waiting for us to start. I always find that bizarre. I don't know, why would people want to look at little old me? But anyway, so
people want the info, man.
Yeah, it's very humbling. So I'll get the bot started. I've recruited VoiDude into the questions, so he'll be answering and reading some questions this week because normally Algared or myself would do that, but Algared not being here, I need a little bit of extra help as per usual. So Voidy will be looking at some of the questions too. So make sure you get some questions in, and feel free to chuck some specifically at Voidy. So some things that you think that he might be. No, how would you put that? Especially able to answer, I guess, is the weird way for me to ask that one. All right.
If it's hard to fail upwards or downwards, upwards and then downwards, then you're sure.
Yes. All right. All right. It's 3 a.m. Oh, oof. Why are you still awake, Starlet? Go to bed. 3 a.m. That's a night out for you.
Dedication.
All right. So, all right. The bot is, let me double check that the bot is working. Yep, bot's up. All good. So yeah, get your questions in. Someone do a test question for me. Here, I'll do a test one. See if that comes through, just to make sure that that's working. Yes, it is working. Sweet. All right. Yeah. So we don't have much to talk about because there's no questions. But tell me a little bit about how you got started then on the YouTube. And I think the other thing I'll have a follow-up question for you after that. But yeah, how did you get started on the YouTube?
I mean, a number of years ago, I've always kind of been interested in like making some kind of content, but I started 1 or 2 channels many years ago, and they didn't really go anywhere or do anything. It was kind of just like mediocre sort of gameplay stuff. But Star Citizen's kind of, I think it was actually Jumptown. Jumptown is what kind of really drove me to actually hit the record button and then do something more than was just a just you playing the game kind of a thing. And slowly kind of, made more and more content after Jumptown. Because, I mean, the thing was, because Star Citizen, Jumptown in particular at the time, I think it was the only thing that actually brought a lot of the systems in the game together to you had cargo, you had a goal, you had, you could make money, there was incentive, there was the PvP element or whatever. But there was also like this massive degree of like freedom that you had on how you approach it. And I think it was kind of like me wanting to show off that ability to see like, well, this is a very simple thing, but look how many ways you can like approach it kind of. I mean, there's really only like 3 or 4 ways you can approach it. Like, I just thought it was so fun, so emergent, so dynamic, and like I just wanted to record, running around and stealing boxes from people and like getting that kind of footage. I just thought it was great, and then kind of found the groove.
Yeah, kind of really was the first time I think people really saw that whole emergent gameplay thing that just it really was emergent, like it actually wasn't forced, and it was almost like this happy accident. And then they changed it. It's like, why would you stuff with that? It was working so well. 100%. And it's never, even with the new Jumptown stuff, it's just not the same. It's just not the same. I love the new
Jumptown. I mean, like the OG Jumptown that you're talking about, like I have vague memories of doing that kind of stuff, but I'm talking about the Jumptown that started about 1.5 years ago. That's like when I started my channel. With the physical boxes that you could like ship out of the dispensers or whatever.
Right. Okay.
That was.
So I'm showing my age.
I mean, I did play in those early Jumptown days, but it was I remember, approaching the facility and that sense of paranoia and like the way that it just kind of, again, emergent gameplay is probably the correct word there, but like I'm fairly happy with what they've done. Is it perfect? Probably not. But because you've got that like combined arms feel of like space and ground combat going on there, I think it draws a lot of like the Battlefield type players, to it. It's like, did you ever play Battlefield? It was 2142 or something like that, the old one with the Titans and all that shit.
Yep. I know the one you're talking about.
That kind of game, that kind of like sci-fi experience, or like, I think that drew a lot of, or at least drew me very heavily towards like, what Star Citizen was sort of capable of. But yeah,
I do know.
Kind of
I do know from when I interviewed Chris, he is a big Battlefield fan, so it does make all the sense. Ace Hambone, thank you for the super chat. He says, "Hello, gents. Thank you for the streams. Thank you, Ace. Appreciate it." No, yeah. So he's a big Battlefield fan, and I often thought that Theaters of War would be in that vein, but unlike having a restricted map, it essentially you can kind of go anywhere. So if you can, they can kind of essentially take Battlefield and push it out across the entire kind of area of the game. I don't know what else to call that. The unlimited space of the game. I think they're going to draw in a lot of people. Like I think if they can draw in all those Battlefield people, but also nail the gameplay of say something like I don't think they want Call of Duty. They want close to it, like, because they also want the leaning, and they you can already tell from the way they're going. They're trying to get the realism stuff in from games like Armor and stuff like that, but they're simplifying it in such a way where you don't have to have all the button pressing for some of those more realistic,
like Twitch, Twitch type shooters. Yeah, 100%. I mean, the thing is, the FPS combat in Star Citizen is actually quite good and quite fun. The problem is the servers are always so fucked that like it doesn't quite lend itself to like being demonstrated as well. There's always some form of desync or a patch that introduces some kind of issue or something like that. But like the actual gunplay feels good, and I think as time goes on, and things stabilize, and like we have more solid servers, I think that mainstream element will really become sort of more apparent. And people pick it up and see like, wow, this is actually quite a it could stand on its own 2 feet just as an FPS title, right? I mean, it's based on the Crisis Engine and all that stuff. But
I get you. I'm gonna make your background love hearts, so every time your camera drops out, we just get love hearts. There we go. I don't know why, but your camera keeps dropping out. That's fine. I do know that the internet can be a bit rickety in certain places of the world, especially.
Is there anything I can do to quickly reconnect it?
I will. No. I'll try and refresh it on my side. It can be multiple things. I'm trying to do multiple things as one. You can see my screen. Everyone else can't see my screen, so you can see that I'm trying to do multiple things.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So what I was going to ask is, how do I put this? So there's a YouTube versus Twitch mechanic type of thing. So I guess my question is, how do you like, having been in this space now for a little bit, how do you find YouTube compared to Twitch? Because you're on the YouTube side like me and Algared are. So and then you get people like Space Tomato that started on YouTube but also did Twitch fairly quickly. So I've talked to a few people, like, and then we've also got Paul, and Paul went the other way. He started on Twitch and then went to YouTube. So with the people I know, I've had a few different responses, and I'm just kind of interested to know where you're at. Volta Epic, thank you for the 100 bits. Normally watch on YouTube, but just wanted to say thank you, Inforunners, for all the good content. After the most recent war bonds, I'm less than $100 from finishing all 6 of my CCU trains. Would have been able to do so without you guys. Perseus gang. In fact, use one for Perseus. I think Badgers would be proud. I'm a little, but
I love the Perseus, even though you guys seem to shit on it quite a bit.
I love the Perseus. I just don't like the price of the Perseus. That's my problem. Yeah. And that's the same thing. Like, a lot of people think I'm like, oh, he hates on Origin ships. I actually like them. I just want them to do more.
We have that in common, dude. I meme and joke on Origin ships all the time, so we have that in common. But Perseus, yeah, man, just still one in game.
I'm probably going to end up getting one just from sheer lack of will. And I'm at that point now where I think there's one ship left that I really want. And ironically, through the tricks I've learned, right? So I can get the ship I'm after is Pioneer, but I can get an Idris for cheaper than the Pioneer.
Damn. Go Idris, bro.
because you can't do any tricks on the Pioneer, right? But you can do tricks on the Idris, right? So I can literally get like I did with the Kraken. I got my Kraken for roughly a third the price because of tricks that I know, right?
I mean, I'm not too clued up on like the actual specifics of on like the CCU game or whatever, but because of you guys, I managed to get a very good like the Endeavor. It's no joke. Like I literally bought the Endeavor because of you guys, and I don't quite know why still. You made a very compelling argument at the time. I watched the video and I was like, hey, the sale's on, I can do this. And then I wiggled my way through. I got a couple. I'm sitting on a Corsair now with a bunch of CCUs up to it. But
because it's a very affordable capital ship compared to most of the ships, and it's got a lot of gameplay that comes with it. I even look at ships like the Reclaimer. And compared to other capital ships, it's fairly cheap. I'm surprised they didn't put the Reclaimer up more than they did. That really baffles me. But I'm almost expecting it to go up still for two reasons. It doesn't have all its gameplay. And two, anyone that's heard what some people see as a crazy theory, I still think there is a way the cutter connects to that ship from the... so it might not come... Because it says it comes with a cutter. So I actually think at some point they'll bring out a variant of the cutter. Like, how they had the Pisces come out? And then they had the medical.
Like some kind of snub or some kind of complementary ship for the Reclaimer.
Well, if you go into the... Man, I could probably pull it up. Give us something to talk about. Here we go. Look, I'll pull it up. Switching us over to... I
remember you guys actually talking about this a while ago. And you were actually theorizing on like what the cutter was. And it was going to be some kind of relationship to the Reclaimer, even though the brands were different.
Reclaimer concept sale, right? And then you go into... So this is the actual original concept sale from way back in September 26, 2014. That's how far back we're going, right? So it's pretty far back. Right?
The Reclaimer's a meme, bro.
Yeah, it really is. But what it is I'm zooming in so people can see on screen, obviously. So apologies for the awkward size. But it's this last paragraph here, right? And it says, additionally, it includes a manned cutter, which may be deployed for EVA recovery operations. We intend the game's salvage mechanic to include a search and recovery function, which players will exit their spacecraft in suits and maneuver units to explore wreckages. Pocket spacecraft like the cutter will carry tools and supplies and transport recovery artifacts back aboard the ship. So essentially that is going to be the component removal part of the Reclaimer.
Yeah. If you look at the mesh of the Reclaimer, is there space or like is there any unused space in it at the moment besides the chomper?
So I probably have a photo somewhere. Give me a second. I'll have to pull this up because this is you making me do things in the background. Why you do this?
Content.
No, I just don't like to do things unorganized. All right.
Yeah, I hear you.
Reclaimer skeleton rack. Here we go. This might be it here. All right. So you can see that, but now I'm going to make it so stream can see that. So just hold on. Open with. Will let me? Yes, it will. Sweet. All right, you guys should be able to see that. So this is the back of the Reclaimer underneath its butt. This rack here, that's where I think it goes. This elevator, so there's the big elevator that you know about. There's this elevator here at the back. This actually goes on an angle, which perfectly lines up, and it comes down to about here, which is perfectly in line with if the cutter went here. Now, the way I think it works is if you look at the leaked version, which was the Expedition variant of the cutter, it had this weird magnetic thing on the top of it. I think this comes along and magnetically attaches to the bottom of the Reclaimer on those rails. Well, that's how I think it worked, right? And so basically, it attaches like a cheap man snub. But when you talk to people like Algared and Astropub, they're like, Drake would never... Aegis would never work with Drake. But what it is if you read the lore, and these guys know the lore, so I find this really weird, is Drake, the military won't work with Drake. It's not Aegis won't work with Drake, it's the military won't work with Drake. This is one of Aegis's only non-military ships. This and the Vulcan are the two non-military ships they currently have. There might be more at the future, but that's what they currently have. So because it's Aegis, I think they would work with Drake, and it is you can't work with the Vulcan, so this is the only one they can work with, right? And knowing the writers, the design team, all that type of thing, you've got one opportunity, they would take it. So essentially what I was trying to say with the Pisces is they released the Pisces, and then instead of just doing all the variants like they did back in the day, they've learned that if they slowly trickle them out, they make more money. So I think the version of the cutter we saw was the default version. I do think I'm not saying how many versions of the cutter is. There might be 1, there might be 2, there might be 10. I don't know. But I think one of them will eventually be a version that connects with this.
I could see that. I could buy that. I mean, the thing is that they're not above retconning things and making changes, as things go on, as they figure stuff out. So I mean, they could even just go back on their word and change the word cutter to something else, right? I mean, maybe they were literally using it as a verb, as in like something that cuts, but like they haven't given it a name or a description, and it's just a coincidence that the cutter was a cutter, right? But yeah, I think ships need more snubs. I still find it strange that the Andromeda series is the only ships with like dedicated snubs.
I'm just reading. So in Twitch chat, Waffle Insanity said, if you watch the 1-hour video regarding Squadron 42 that was released 5 years ago in game crosscut, you literally see a tiny cutter come out of the nose of the Reclaimer. I'm wondering if that's a drone that comes out of the Reclaimer, because it's also got drones, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. And it's just the drone dropping off stuff, because the actual nose of the Reclaimer, I don't have it in here to show, obviously, but if you go up really close, there's actually a literal tunnel right on the front of the Reclaimer, and that leads right into the processing room. So what I'm envisioning, like, again, I spent a lot of time in the ship trying to work out how it works, but from what I can tell is that, the 2 stripping things at the moment, I think that third slot, there seems to be 3 slots. I think the third slot is a tractor beam, and I think so they strip, and then after they've done stripping, they start tractor beaming the parts that are being cut up by the claw operator. So the claw operator will grab, start lasering it up, and then they start tractoring the pieces in. Excuse me. It was a manned drone. You can see a tiny person inside of it. Okay. Man, link it to me, Waffle, on, and I'll go have a look. I might not do it now, but I'll definitely have a look. I obviously missed that, Waffle, and as
I would actually like to look at that video.
I think a few people.
So
send us a link through either via Discord or maybe one of us might see it on Twitch. I'm sure someone will get it through to me anyway if I miss it. All right. My cough is starting to rear its ugly head, as it does. So that's my crazy theory, long short on the cutter. But I do think we're going to see more variants, even of the Pisces. I think so. So just to give an example of the Pisces one, probably 4 years ago now, when we did an entire episode on the Pisces, because that's how kind of weird we are, right? And we were like, this ship has to have scanners because the Carrot can't go through small jump points or medium jump points because it's a large ship. So the snub has to be the one that goes through to map the jump point, right? So it's got to have scanners, right? So we're like, so when it comes, it'll have scanners. So this is like, a couple of months before the ship comes out. The ship comes out and it's just a cargo ship. It's got no scanners at all. But in the ISC the week before it came out, they actually originally had a scanning station that they removed. So I'm theorizing now that we've seen the medical Pisces, I think we'll see a variant where they put the scanner back in. And I think
do we know if all ships will have like a basic, like we have now, there's basic sort of scanning functionality? We'll have to see if that could expand it upon. And then what is the difference, a stock ship that is not a dedicated scanner in any way versus something that does have scanning capabilities? Are we talking probes like they discussed a while back with like long range sort of send a physical object out, get more detailed information, then you can decide where to go on a sort of longer sort of jump basis, whatever. It'll be so interesting because that's the stuff that I'm like most interested in, to be honest, in terms of like actual features or functions that come into the game. Scanning stuff, the long range sort of probe stuff, and then the anything that can make player made beacons, man. Oh, dude, that'd be so good. Some kind of physical aspect where it's like, cool, if you have this box, it becomes a beacon or something like that.
Yeah, so they have this question actually came up again during Con 42 during the, I don't know if you know about what that is, but there was a convention over the weekend And that came up in there too. So there are a lot of newer people coming in asking the same questions that got asked like 5 years ago again. But yeah, they just confirmed, yeah, that's eventually what's going to be. They haven't kind of said, is it going to be like a beacon that's so big that it's like a 1 SCU container you drop out the back of your ship? They haven't said if it's like a flare that you drop off the back of your ship that's just automatic. They're the questions I want to know. Like, is it like a little flare that it just becomes a part of your ammo count? Or is it a physical object you've got to kick out the back of the ship? You know, things like that. We do know they have to be maintained. We do know they have to be kind of like refueled or recharged.
Yeah, I can imagine all the stuff that they've spoken about components can be extrapolated onto all this kind of stuff, man. Yeah, 100%.
So one of the things we're realizing now is that through low and high tech and stuff like that, because you know they have like that in the zones, and you've also got them in the ships, like, you know, Origin versus like Drake and stuff like that. That might even travel over. We've theorized that it'll even go into things like Titan suits, right? So you might get a Titan suit that is like really high tech and it runs on a battery. You might get a Titan suit that literally runs on fuel, you know, and it's cogs and gears, where the other one is, you know.
I want a jetpack that takes 1 SCU container on it. That'd be cool. Or like a Titan suit that has like some kind of thing on the back where you can like load a crate or something.
You just want to carry a crate and drop it on people. You want to be your own A2 bomber. I know you too well. Yeah. Thank you for the $10 super chat. I'm Robin75. Didn't have a message, but yeah, thank you. We appreciated your support. All right, we might do some of these questions for a little bit, and then we'll go watch ISC. We tend to watch ISC pretty early on. I don't know. Do you want to do? I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to do ISC first, or do you want to do questions? Your
Maybe let's do 3 questions and then ISC for no other reason other than.
Right. Do you want to read the questions then?
Cool. Do you go through all of them, or do I just pick one?
So I start at the top. So I'm gonna mark it. I'll mark it off just for the first one. So that's the one I want you to do. The one above that.
Cool. Mason Roach 17 asks, with RSI being confirmed for the large mining ship, when do you think it will come out, and how far would the Orion be out?
I think it's the last mining ship we'll see. And my reasoning for that is the Orion, the Mole, and the Prospector, they all kind of do surface mining that we have right now. We had them confirm, wasn't the end of last year, but the end of the year before that underground mining is still a thing. We got many, for 6 months we were trying to get into that 10 for the questions thing. We got it through because Tecton, the geologist guy, really wanted to reconfirm it. He got it reconfirmed. So the Prospector still, if you look at the concept for the Prospector, I can bring that up actually. Give me a second. See if I can find it. And now I can't find the Prospector. There it is. So in these images for the oh god, I still got it zoomed in. There is. Here we go. I think it's this one. Yeah, this is it here. Why can't I go? It's acting really weird on my screen for some reason. And it's not the one I wanted, but okay. For some reason that's all squiff. I'll just refresh it. Give me a second. There we go. Nope. There it is. This one. So this is the underground mining part, and actually shows how it works, right? And it talks about the tractor beam holds the large object in the mining laser to separate precious minerals from the system. And there's a few other pictures in there as well. If you go through, you can see different things of how it does underground mining and stuff like that. And there actually are pictures of it actually doing that as well. As a concept one. I just got to find it. But we've reconfirmed that the Prospector. There you go. There it is there. So we've reconfirmed that the Prospector does this. And in most cases, the starter ships are going to be the... I've just realized I'm not showing this to stream like a freaking idiot. What a dickhead.
Just us going,
VoiDude can see what I see, so he's just like, oh yeah.
Sorry, chat.
Yeah. Right. Oh, now you're in the way. Great. I'm going to move you out of the way for a second. There we go. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So yeah, that's that one. I'll move you back though, because now you're, there we go. And then the other one that we were talking about, just so you can see, is this one. So it actually has it in a concept and it talks about it. Wait, now I'm going to be in the way. Hang on, I got to go back here. So I'm in the way now. Right. So that's what we're talking. That's what we're talking about. You want to see those? They're obviously on the website. So underground mining is going to be a thing. Why am I telling you about this underground mining? Long story short, that's a whole new type of gameplay where we've already got the rock cracking right now. You literally just scale that up. So they don't have the bigger rocks for the mole yet. They don't have the even bigger rocks for the Orion. But the Orion, if you think about it, you're breaking those rocks down. That's not that dissimilar to breaking down salvage. Do the math, right? So if you're breaking down, like you're lasering up a ship, you're lasering up a rock. You see where I'm going here, right? It's not that dissimilar. It's just like a placing the, you know, the ship being broken apart with the rocks being broken apart. And then, you know, they're basically fed into the machine in both cases. The salvage being fed into the machine to be processed. The rocks are being fed into the machine to be munched even smaller and then processed into ore. If you break that down to gamification, it is the same thing. It's just a different model with a few little extra things, obviously, but that they are very similar, right? When you go to underground mining, that's not been done yet. So that to me will come after. So therefore the ship will come, the Orion will come before the underground mine. I hope that kind of answers that question. Does that make logical sense to you, dude?
Kind of. I mean, I the only thing that my brain is wondering about is like, how would they generate a node for something that is supposed to be classified as something that you can mine underground, right? Because obviously you've got the planet. How would they like deform or make a hole in the terrain?
They don't. That is the brilliance of it, right? That is the utter brilliance. And for a long time I didn't figure it out, but then I did figure it out. Scanning, right? When you scan, think about it in real life. We know that the materials are down there because we can scan and stuff, but we don't physically go there to bring it out, do we? Right? So what it is you use the holographic HUD of your ship and you scan underneath and it makes a fake one on your HUD.
So they don't even have to render it. There'll be like an effect. It'll probably be, there'll be so many particle effects and stuff that you won't necessarily need a whole.
And so on your HUD, you'll see like you're drilling down or whatever, and you can see a ping, and you'll see like a node or whatever, you know, like a vein, like a vein of gold or whatever on the scanner, and then you'll basically drill into it and start sucking it out. And if it's a really long vein, you'll have to probably drill in multiple spots to pull it out.
And you're relying on your heads-up display rather than like physically looking at a rock kind of a thing. I mean, I know next to nothing about mining, but I can see that working.
So you can
don't put it past CIG to start doing like some kind of voxel-based technology on their planets.
They could do that too if they really wanted to, but I don't think it's a part of the. So if you watched Con 42, someone talked about making their own tunnels and shit, and they said not at the moment, but don't rule it out. But that would be so much further down the line. So in my point they're not actually physically going there. They've talked about it being like a node that you would find, and you would come up and you land on the node and you kind of drill down into it. And I don't know exactly what the gameplay is going to be, because obviously it's got to do with attract the beam and lasering, as you can see from the thing behind me. But I think it'll be a lot more jackpotty. Because if you think about it, like, if you think about how rocks are at the moment, you're trying to find that really good rock, but when you find a vein, it's going to be a lot more pure. You know what I mean? So, like, when you actually find a vein, it'll probably be like, I think there's going to be a lot more scanning involved with the under the ground stuff. But when you find it, it's going to be a bigger payday. And I think they actually, in the concept sale for this ship, if you go read it, this is the jack of all trades. This can do a bit of everything, and it allows you to test the different types of mining. And it'll be the same for all the starter ships, I'm sure. They'll all be the jack of all trades, so you can test out what you like and then go, right, that's the ship I want to go for. That's the one I want to earn, because I want to be the underground miner. I don't want to be the surface miner like a mole or something like that. So yeah, the mole is going to be very I think the mole and the Orion are going to be very consistent in the mining, because Orion's just going to find a massive rock and just eat the whole thing. It's going to go, right, this has got everything. So that's almost like mining today with the the really big open cavernous, you know what I mean? Like, you know, the mines unit, what do they call that? Where they drill that hole and it's like rings into the ground.
And then the crypto comes out.
Yeah. And you know, they actually, you know, they just get whatever they get, and they get all these little flakes of gold, and they mine like a ton of gold a day in a normal mine, but it's all these little flakes that they add together. So they're just chewing everything, and they just eat. They don't care because they're just chewing through so much stuff. Then you'll go to the next one down that's probably a little bit less consistent, which is the mole. But then as soon as you go into this land miner, it's going to be like jackpots. You might not get paid for 2 days because you're trying to find, I don't know. I'm making this up, right? 2 days is probably a bit drastic, but when you find one, it's probably going to be like a big payday. So you're going to kind of be a bit more surgy, a bit of a risk.
The risk of actually, you know, maybe going into atmosphere comes with its own sort of, you know, sort of problems, stuff like that, and the type of planet plus weather plus whatever other kind of, you know, like effects and stuff. Yeah, I can totally see that being a thing, right? And then it's kind of like what they've mentioned with this Geminite stuff, with the hand mining stuff. You're working a little bit harder to get it. It's not just floating in space. You've got to go sort of, you know, deeper and further, or like, you know, you don't have as easy an escape as you would in space, kind of thing, regardless, you know, pyrokinetic mechanics or whatever. But like, yeah, I could totally see that then being a bigger payday. That would be the, you know, on average, the average ground node is much more valuable than your average like surface or space node.
Yeah. So the other part that you obviously haven't clued onto yet that comes later, because again, like I'm so much further down the road because I've talked about this with other people, is it's not just underground on planets. Underground on an asteroid is the thing.
Yeah. You could get like a really big asteroid, like Delamol, you know, put mining on Delamol and it gets back into the game.
Yeah. So there might be, like that, but also an Orion might eat the entire rock because it's a really big rock, where this can just go straight to the juice, so to speak. Like he can
and like isolate the actual the value. 100%. I can totally see that, man.
Yeah, so they'll just like essentially take the landing part of the ship and point it at the rock, and you know, none of this is confirmed, but like if you think about it, that's probably where it's going to go, because you can just rotate the laser, and so it'll probably have like an in space mode and then like the way it lands on planets mode. So it still may be able to do some of the more traditional mining as well, you know, the surface stuff. They also talk, more than likely, we've also theorized that it'll have things like rocks on it. So when it lands, because if you think about real life, when you find a vein under the ground, it's really common to find nodes on the surface. So they'll more than likely send out a few little rocks to pick the stuff up and come back in. So you know, things like that. We're intrigued to see where it goes, but being RSI, I'm really happy with, I like RSI as a choice. Me and Algared both kind of went Grey Cat. Like it would have been really good to pay homage to the Cygnus mining tick, you know, or the mining drone, and Grey Cat do mining. So to us, it was a really obvious choice to you know, we're not going to sell the mining tick, but here's one that's kind of like it. We think that's a really missed opportunity. But maybe down the line, when they actually start doing direct competitors, they may come back and do a Grey Cat at something else, you know. So we'll see. Alrighty then. Yeah, and that's how long it takes to do one question.
Yeah. I'm familiar with you guys. It's you really get in-depth discussion here on Inforunners, boys and girls. Next question: with them working on the Galaxy, do you think that they will work on modularity for ships like Caterpillar soonish after?
Yeah, me and Algared talk about this a fair bit. The original test bed for modularity was the M50 because it has a swappable engine. You know, start small, scale up.
The 350R was also supposed to have that, wasn't it? With the twin engines or something like that. Was that never supposed to be modular?
Not sure. I haven't looked into the. I don't. Okay. I haven't looked.
I might be getting the M50 and the 350R confused. Sorry.
The point I'm trying to make is they're going to use a small ship and then they're going to scale it up.
Yeah.
One of the rumors flying around at the moment is they are doing that with the Retaliator, because they had to go back to rework the Retaliator, and it was meant to be on the roadmap for 6 months. It doesn't take 6 months to fix a door, right? So the thing is, they reckon they're bringing that up to Gold Pass, and when they bring it up to Gold Pass, they'll also do the modules that will work with it as well. So some people are theorizing they've pivoted from the M50 and just went straight into the Retaliator. So instead of doing 2 separate pieces of work, they've merged it together, because there's only, I think, 3 modules on that thing. So it's It's a medium one, so it's not a bad one to do, because then you can scale modularity up and down. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the M50 is a good choice as well, because again, it's simple and it's one module, so there's far less to go wrong. Get all the code. It just becomes really more of a code work. And so once all the code's working, it's just scale out the code to work on other ships.
Yeah. My thinking is that the M50 has probably been put on the back burner and that rather focus on something that features in Squadron, right? So the Retaliator might become the golden sort of candidate for modularity.
Retaliator was the first big ship ever put in game, right? And then the one after that was the Starfarer. So basically, it is old, right? Really old. And when you go back and look at those older ships, they do show their age. Like they
100%.
Yeah. And that ship's needed fixes for a long time. Like we've sat there for a while and talked about the Retaliator. Like it's got 5 turrets on it, and they're all size 2s. It's kind of a little bit like the Freelancer. If you heard us talk about that a couple of weeks ago, it's got too many stations on it now. Like it doesn't need that many. It's probably a 3-person craft at most. You know. Yeah. We theorized that, like, well, you could either upgun the turrets and just have one on the top and one on the bottom, or you could have one on the top, one on the bottom, and then 2 remote turrets that are controlled by the. So if I'm on top firing my turret, the other turret is just shooting what I'm shooting at, and then just upsize all the guns on it.
If you know they've specified the mechanics that they're looking at for like component wear and tear, bugs, you know, all the various sort of gameplay regarding components. Could they extrapolate that onto something like the torpedo bay of a reclaimer, and then you'd actually need your engineer or some kind of dedicated guy to just make sure that is all running properly? You know, if a bug can occur on a component, could a bug occur with the way that the torpedo mechanism works?
Sorry, no, I don't. Say that again. I'm a little confused.
So you know, like you've got the components have got these, you know, all this various gameplay. Like it can malfunction. It can, you know, have a bug or whatever it is. Or, you know, could they extrapolate that onto more generic ship systems like the torpedo launcher, like your weapons, like
if I'm on the right page, so like if something happens to one of the components, can something then happen to other? Yes. So if the simplest one is if the power goes out, the whole power goes out everywhere.
Yeah, or like literally torpedo jam mechanism, and you've got to physically like fix it, otherwise you can't drop your torps.
They have said that some components, if they are not maintained, can make other systems break. So they have said that. Okay. But you've also got to realize that we do have multiple different torpedo launchers too, and different torpedoes. Yeah. So eventually,
it becomes an exponential amount of.
Well, if you buy the shitty launcher, it's probably going to be more likely to break.
Yeah. The Drake launcher. Well, the Origin launcher.
Well, the example we've always given is we expect Drake to break more frequently, but be cheaper to repair.
Cheaper to repair.
And if you've ever seen a BMW in real life, my parents own a BMW as an example. When it breaks, it costs them an absolute fortune to get repaired.
Yeah.
And in most cases, so they buy them secondhand, and in most cases, something major will break. They'll just sell it and buy a whole new one because it works out cheaper. That's how ridiculous it is. It's just crazy. And that's why I would never buy a BMW. Because they've got to come from Germany, so they've got to ship the thing all the way over here to Australia, and they're like big metal parts and all that stuff, and they're, you know, highly machined and really good quality and all that, you know. But when they break, they cost a shit ton.
I guess the trick is to trade it in for another BMW before anything bad happens to it.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Do you want the next question?
Yeah, sure. Just remember, we mark them with the thumbs up emoji.
So. Sorry.
That's all right. Cool, no, that's all right. So was that the one we just did there? Yeah, the modularity. Yeah, so we're on to this next one here. Yeah, no, I'm teaching him as he goes. All right. He's getting the whole Algared experience. Here we go. All right, next one.
Cool. Mason Roach 17 asks, do you think CRG will make industrial alien ships? And if yes, which race would be one as an example? Mining, which one would be the one as an example mining? Which alien race would be the first mining ship? Gatak, Banu, or Sishian?
So I won't talk about this too extensively. Algared and I have talked about this before, but we think most of the alien ships are going to come with their expansion packs, because they've talked about doing expansion packs as races. So Algared thinks the Tavaran one will come a lot. I think we're more likely to Tavaran as a campaign or a prequel. where it goes back into the past and talks about the Tavaran War as a campaign, and some of those ships will be brought through, like, or found and brought through by Xperia, but I don't think they're going to get the same campaign as, say, the Zion or the Banu, because they still kind of exist. And yes, they do exist, but...
I'm calling it now. If we do get a mining alien ship, it'll be Asperia for the Vandal. Don't they have like a big drill ship? Some kind of big, like they've got like concepted out like
Harvester.
Harvest, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
And he just eats everything and turns it into a slurry that they use for everything. But I'm not ruling out the Vandal eventually being expansion pack either. Right, because the other thing you'll find is there is a species behind every species. Why is that?
Exactly.
So, because that means it's got something to show us that's new.
Yeah. I think once 42 and the entire campaign is said and done, and then you're in like the modern universe as it exists today, the Vandal is less of a threat as it used to be, and a lot of that stuff has been assimilated into UE cultural design, or
anyone that knows a little bit about Roman history. Because that's what this game, they're literally called Vandals in Roman history as well. Yeah. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be cat people.
It could be. Just to answer his question real quick. So to get back to the mining stuff or an alien ship, there will be ships that bleed over into each other's cultures. That's why we've got a few alien ships, right? And we also know that as an example, the Zion craft whole series of ships, the whole C, D, E, etc., because they really like the Zion in their space, right? So just as when the Zion expansion pack comes out as an example, there may be other ships by MISC or other manufacturers. Well, now Consolidated Outland is working with them as well, so there might be some Consolidated Outland ships that are crafted there, right? So not only will you probably see some new Zion ships, but you may see one or two new human ships as well, right? The point I'm trying to get at is, if you think about it, if you're going to release a species as an expansion pack, you're going to hold off a lot of their ships for said expansion, right? And it's the same thing with the Banu and stuff like that. And not everything that they create will transfer over. So look at it in the real world. Like there is, like you get, and I'm going to give a really bad example here, but like, you know how you get McDonald's, but McDonald's is everywhere. You know how you got your mum and dad, like one here in Australia is called Red Rooster. Now, I don't know if that goes is in other countries, but like I'm sure in South Africa, you have a version of a McDonald's that's not global. You know what I'm trying to say? So we and they corner that market on that thing, but it's localized. Yeah. So it's like, in human space, they use different cargo ships, but in over in the Zion they use all their Zion cargo ships. It's exactly that. So I think when we see the expansion packs, we'll start to see ships that literally collide, as in they do the exact same job.
It's like tweaked for their demographic or like their culture or their market or whatever.
So in regards to mining, there probably will be a Zion miner, a Banu miner, a Vandal miner, and they probably were doing it in a different way. Just like as we said with the Vandal harvester, they don't mind, they just consume everything. The Zion, I think I talked about this only last week. I said the Zion will probably just shoot it with a beam and the rocks walk into the ship, like they just hover into the ship. I've got no idea. They'll find some way to alienify them and make them different, so and spice up the gameplay. So anyway, all right, I hope that answers the question.
I cannot mark off questions, by the way. I don't have
you don't have the power? That's fine. Okay, well, I'll do it for you. It's fine.
I'm not He-Man. Okay, cool. John Mortimer asks, which Idris would you buy, P or K? I don't know the difference.
This is an Algared question. So the P is the one that doesn't have the railgun. It's the lowest end one, and the K is the one that's got the laser. And the K also, from memory, from what Algared tells me, is the one that adds automated to convert some of the turrets into like auto turrets. On paper, the K's stronger. It also means you've got less upgrading to do. But no matter what, if you want to go to the top of the line to the M, you're gonna have to earn that stuff in game. So you're essentially paying for the upgrades up front for the K. I prefer the K because it requires less crew, because you've got those automated guns. So I think that's a bit of a benefit there. But there's nothing to say you can't, you get more crew members, you can't go find a normal turret and essentially downgrade those auto turrets to guns as well. Well, the P really doesn't have a gun. It just doesn't have one. So I think it's kind of a bit of a no-brainer to go for the K, because at least then you've got a predominant main gun in that laser. So I don't know.
Is there no railgun on the other?
There's no railgun on the P at all. I don't think there's any gun at all. I have to double check. It's been a little bit, but this is the Algared's area, not mine. But someone in chat tell me the P doesn't have anything, does it? Like as in a main gun, it's got no main gun at all. So the K has a laser.
Case, I would say, yeah. If that's the case, I'd say go with the K.
Mm. Someone.
That's what I would go.
We're maybe 30 seconds behind, so give him a minute to type. But yeah, someone will let him know. But I'm pretty sure the K has a laser, and the P doesn't have anything. I hope that kind of answers your question. P is empty, hard points. Yep, cool. Yep, I thought I was right. I just need something to confirm for me because it's been a hot minute. All right. With that, I think we'll watch some ISC, Void, if you're up for it.
Yay.
I've got to swap this over so you can hear it on your end. So I'm just doing that now, really quick. That one. Alrighty, and then I've got to switch it over for stream. Just give me a hot minute. It is not that one. Not that one. I hit the wrong button again. No, I did. Cool, we're good. All right. Here we go.
Loreville.
Mm-hmm.
In 2865, Hurston Dynamics purchased a planet in the Stanton system and began the process of looking for their capital, being careful not to build on the resource-intense areas they bought the planet for in the first place, because you gotta leave all that free for the mining after all. Now, during that search, they designated one particular area already filled with structures that house the on-world workers by the three-letter designation LOR, an acronym for the rather dismissive title Local Occupational Residency. And after essentially requiring all of their workers to live there, because it makes it easier to keep an eye on everyone, the town eventually gathered an unofficial temporary nickname. And as anyone that's ever built something huge and complex can tell you, there are few things in life more permanent than an unofficial temporary nickname. Now, eventually, the Hurston family made this the center of all commerce and residence on the planet, and thus Loreville continued to grow and expand and be built upon. And in the upcoming Alpha 319, it's taking its next major step forward towards becoming the thriving, brutalist cityscape old Solomon Hurston would be proud of.
Badges, if you're in chat and you can hear me, I could use the help if you want to come join us, but if you can't, I understand.
Help us, Badges.
Plus, you can come talk to VoiDude.
Well, how would I describe Loreville to somebody who's never seen it?
Lots of crazy stuff happened there. I don't know, man. It's very dusty. Definitely very dusty. Yeah.
I think it would be something that...
Do you know what almost scares me? That these people are so young that they would have been like little kids when
I was
this
just
came.
about to say, this is like the Zuma developers are.
Oh God, I feel so old. Right.
a place that's very polluted. It would be a place that's very oppressive, but also pretty lively at the same time. People are working there day and night.
Loreville is essentially a mega city. It's sprawling, it's huge. And it's on a Stanton 1 planet inside the Stanton system. The story of Loreville, I know that it's been, it was built by a company, a family business. It's ruled by the Hurston family. And it's a very authoritarian regime.
Place that's very expensive in the scale of it.
Reminds you a little bit of 1984, that kind of stuff, maybe. Also a little bit of a Tyrell Corporation from Blade Runner, something like that. That's what comes to my mind when I think of Loreville, yeah.
So a landing zone like Loreville is
Hang on, sorry.
Is a hub.
Sorry, say again.
So I just said it's Blade Runner in the Outback.
Oh yeah. It's Aussie Outback Blade Runner.
For the players. It has many services. There's the habs, the habitations, and from there, they can spawn. There's the hospitals. There's shops. There's missions.
There's obviously multiple areas and some new areas as well.
When you're arriving from your ship, the first thing you're going to see is, well, you're going to see the CBD, of course.
Central Business District. And this is where the Hurston family oversees the city.
There's the spaceport.
A picture, I think it almost looks like Algared without his beard. This one here, yeah.
Old man Hurston.
Yeah.
The city.
There's the spaceport.
Wait, is that the first Uwe girl as well? Look. Oh, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
City.
There's the spaceport that obviously has a lot of the transit line going to. You can also go to the L19 where there's obviously some residential.
Leading up from like the center, we have like those transit lines that are like going in.
Good to see they've actually got some layers going there too. Like they're a bit more complicated. I really like that.
Yeah. It almost looks as if there should be, it caters for way more trams.
Yeah.
So if you want to, we'll see way more trams.
Feels more lived in is how.
Yeah.
Different directions from the center of the city.
I do like how this guy dressed for the occasion for his cosplay. He's doing the whole worker at Loreville thing. But anyway.
Yeah, same
And
color
from
scheme and
there-
everything.
There's many districts
Well, he very looks like an outback worker. So I was just like,
Okay,
inside the
gotcha.
inner city. In the inner city, we represent the different classes of the residents of Loreville. There's areas of where there's more wealth. These are like higher up top, and they have like gold cladding on their buildings. And we have like lower areas that are like closer to the industrial areas. And it's mainly residential and commercial. We have like lots of opportunities for branding. The branding comes mainly from Nicolas Fortin's team. So we partnered with them, and they come up like with new brands. In turn, the environment art team helped to integrate those into billboards and holograms throughout the city. So the areas like the CBD, the L19 at the spaceport, you're all familiar with. These haven't changed. They just moved slightly because they were already up to a quality that still works today. And what we've worked on is the connecting tissue between those to make like the city feel actually the big size compared to what it was.
can you imagine what this is going to be like when they roll this out to R-Corp?
Oh, I think Arcorp's a whole
Holy
other
shit.
story, but that'll be amazing.
But,
Yeah.
well, it's the same thing.
I just love that.
As I said,
Yeah.
you start,
Same kind of thing. They just need to like.
you start
Go
small
ahead.
and work your way up. So again,
Yeah.
doing one city like this before you got to do an entire planet like that. Yeah.
The thing that I love the absolute most here is like one of the things that I've noticed the most is the, I think it's part of the new rendering tech stuff, the Vulkan or whatever. But something happened where the lighting just feels more unified between 3.17 and 3.18. The lighting has become so much more unified, and it's like it just looks better in terms of like as things go into the distance, you've got that like atmospheric perspective and stuff. It's very cool.
Yeah. I seem to be using a bit. I don't to put it in simple terms, the fog as well. Like you can almost see how that's having an effect on the lighting as well. So yeah, they've definitely got some depth going now as well, and you can tell that they've got lotting in there as well. Because like, for example, if you look off the right here on the foreground, you can see all the lights. But the further you go back into the background, less lights appear. That's a part of the lotting. So we're starting, as you were kind of hinting at. That optimization is coming in, so we're getting more draw calls, but we're getting more detail as well. So not only are we getting better performance, we're also getting better more details and things like that. So it's a maturing of the game and the software and stuff like that. So yeah, that's really good.
100%.
Buildings are now much higher, but you're also going to see how the city now extends further away, a little bit like tentacles, right? And it spreads out into those smaller islands. We call them islands. Those are the industrial islands. Let's say you start from the spaceport and you want to travel outside towards the industrial islands. First of all, they're much further away, but they're still connected. They connected using pipelines from the city to the outskirts. And once you get to the industrial islands, you can see, it's filled with chimneys, lots of activities.
That's pretty cool. Actual moving parts and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Happening there. it really shows, you know, the might that is Hurston Dynamics and the Hurston family itself. Yeah, I think that's a good answer.
So making Loreville was not like a straight line. There was many like challenges, and we didn't really have expectations of what we could achieve or not achieve. We just went with our feelings. What kind of city?
Harold Disco went on a holiday for the last 3 weeks. He literally said he was going on holiday next week at the last episode 3 weeks ago. So yeah, he has had a break. So good on him.
We wanted to build basically.
You know, we tried to create a certain variety of colors inside the city, but overall it remains pretty gray. But at the same time, it's also pretty dusty. You know, it reflects the pollution, how industrial the city is.
And in the end, like we're just like driving that point that it's like heavily polluted or authoritarian, and that it's in
Waffle, re-ask that question after this.
everything we do.
Lighting is very important when you're coming to a location. When one of the last part that the art.
Funny how you mentioned lighting. I just want to pre-add that you mentioned that, Voidy. Like it's like you saw it coming. I don't know. Have you watched this already? I'm curious now. I haven't watched
Nope.
it. It's like, okay.
I just agree that lighting is so important.
It happens a lot. Me and Algared will start discussing something, and then it's like literally the very next scene they start mentioning it. It happens quite a bit. It's just kind of funny.
It really brings the life to all the previous work that the environmental artists did.
Lighting drives the eye. It makes us look at places, and it just like enhances the contrasts, and we get like a whole better look through that lighting.
The lighting really, it brings in the whole atmosphere. And during the night, we want to bring that feeling of liveliness to the city.
Yeah, night is pretty badass with all the new buildings, the taller building.
Wow. That looks damn sick.
It looks really good here.
That is so good. Wow, that looks sick. That's like a shot out of a movie. I shit you not, like a scene from Aliens or Blade Runner, as you called it earlier.
No,
I can't
100% dude.
can't get over
I
how sick that
really want to
looks.
see this in game. I
Yeah.
really want to see this in game.
The windows and everything. Little red lights, blinking red lights.
Oh wait, I know what's. Yep. Sorry, I know what's happened. I forgot to turn the thing off. Just give me a sec. So we have a filter on, and I keep forgetting to turn it off. Algared's normally here to remind me. All right, there you go. Should have fixed the issue. Apologies for that. Let me know if that's fixed now, Strato.
Across the city, as a player, when you come in and you see these giant structures, but also these little lights, it really shows, you know, okay, this is a really big building. Try to put a lot of small details, small elements like street lights, containers, also a little bit of some pathways for vehicles to move around. That really helps to solidify the idea that, you know, this is a giant city, giant facilities that are being built inside this.
I do hope we actually have roads so we can actually start making use of certain vehicles, like the one I'm thinking of is the Nox. You know, it's a street racer. I actually want to have streets to race in. It's something that was clearly missing from, say, ArtCorp as an example. But if they've got something like that here, we might start seeing the groundwork for that rolling out to other locations soon. So yeah.
City.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's huge.
There's a lot of different viewpoints right now, so you'll be able to appreciate it from a lot of different distances and viewpoints, even if you're far away.
Still a very bustling city, lots of activities happening. You can also see people taking the train, the transit to move around the city to, you know, get from their habs to their workplace.
The lighting on the transit line has been really, really improved. You'll have a lot more to see when you're going through these different lines, and I think it's going to be very exciting.
It's not just the lights in the city, but also in the industrial islands. Even though they're a bit further away, they have these giant, I call them cauldrons. It's like burning some sort of material. It's very orangey. It glows a lot. I think you can actually see them from outer space. Lighting at night with those cauldrons It's really amazing looking.
The atmosphere is really
So in chat, Marcus Jensen said prediction approximately 50% of backers will set this for the starting location when the Loreville update goes live. My question is it going to be optimized enough? Is it going to be like Horizon when Horizon first went live and it just, you know, was a bit chunky and didn't run so well? But now, you know, 12 months later, it's running really well. Or are we going to see that it's a lot more optimized from the get-go? So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how it goes. I don't know. What's your take on that, Void?
I mean, dude, I'm a disgusting optimist when it comes to this game, and I think that the newer stuff, better meshes, better LODs, all that kind of stuff, I think we'll actually see a performance like the same, if not better.
All right, you're very positive. I hope you are correct. I really do. But yeah, I would hope to think that them coming back.
The only
to...
thing that'll tank it is because absolutely everyone on the server is going to set it their starting location.
Yeah.
That will probably be the issue, not the actual place itself.
Yeah, I do hope that them coming back to it though is they are removing a lot of those, say, more buggy older models. I'm not saying that they're just more optimized.
Just less optimized stuff. Yeah, get rid of the less optimized stuff. It has to be that way, right? I mean,
yeah. Nice to see it end up, by the way.
important as well. It gives like the depth that we need inside the city. It makes things like feel believable, and like it adds this layer of.
What do you mean, Aurelius and Dominus? It's totally healthy to put a plastic bag on your head and live in Loreville. What are you talking about?
Realism.
Loreville during the day is very, very polluted, obviously. So when you get into the city, there are a very thick layer of clouds. And when you get through these clouds, it's like getting into a new world, in a different world. They cover the top of a building. It's very impressive. They just bring so much to the atmosphere.
It'd be really cool if they could have like the sun open up in just certain spots during the day and like massive god rays come through. That'd look sick. As if to, you know, like just show how polluted the place is, but there's that just random speck of hope. You know what I mean?
I'm sure one of these developers or designers or whatever have absolutely done like a certain time of day, because the clouds are static at the moment, right? The clouds don't really move.
Well, they didn't look so static. If you go back, look, I think they've updated them. Because look, that's not static.
Maybe it's got its own
clouds
new volumetric thing going on there.
When you get through these clouds, it's like getting into a new world.
Pretty sure they have added volumetric clouds to Loreville already. Actually, sorry.
Yeah, the volumetric clouds are there, but I'm pretty sure that it's like a static thing.
Oh, is it not moving? Yeah, okay, yeah, now I'm with you. Yeah, agreed. No, agreed.
But it would be like this level of fog here, closer to the city, that could very well be some new moving fog tech. Who knows?
True.
They cover the top of a building. It's very impressive. They just bring so much to the atmosphere. They really, really kind of put that finish on the daylighting.
Sunlight doesn't actually always touch the ground. You know, everything's a little bit in the shade because of the smoke, the smog, the atmosphere. It's so thick, you can't really see into the horizon. You know, how many buildings is there? You know, it's pretty claustrophobic, even though, you know, it's a giant city. But if you look really far away, you can't really see where it ends because of the atmosphere.
Chris did a great job on the atmosphere, and it looks very, very unhealthy, I would say, to be there in that atmosphere for very long.
VFX, they did a great job with especially the chimneys, the amounts of smoke that the industrial zones are creating. It really emphasizes the pollution aspect to how they do business in Hurston. Lighting definitely with the new atmosphere looks really much different, and it really showcases the ominous feeling of the city.
The whole composition of the city works through with lighting just hand in hand. Without lighting, like everything looks a bit flat.
You want to notice that small little mistake there? Hang on. I can find it again. Just here.
In hand. Without lighting, like everything looks...
It's like the lights are coming through the models, so there's still some little bugs there.
It's a bit flat.
It's like
and so it's very important in that process to bring kind of the final look, to bring it alive from what the concept art originally kind of said about the location.
Do you know what that probably was, actually?
Just lights not being cold.
You know the if you ride the tram on New Babbage and you can see the hologram that is in the tunnels, you can usually see that clipping through things. It's like a Z artifacting thing. It's like too far in front. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just culling things that haven't been set to be culled. They'll get it. It's no biggie.
The biggest change from the old Loreville to the new is the scale of those buildings, and they feel much more integrated, lifelike as a city. And that was one of the reasons at the beginning why we wanted to change Loreville, was to get like that proper scale throughout the city, and that feeling that basically can make you feel like it's a real city. Making the buildings at the correct scale can enable us later to create interiors for those buildings. And so in that sense, Loreville will be ready for that. Getting close to the city, like especially while flying, like the feeling is just so great. We've lowered the restricted zone as much as we can, and we can really get close to the buildings now. The size of those windows are like true to real life size of windows. The scale of things feels like really good.
Level design definitely also plays a role inside the city. We try to make sure that players, if they want to fly their ship around buildings or into some of these areas that we call trenches, level design reminded us to, keep some openings so that players can move around them easily. On our side, we also made sure that you can navigate in some of those structures, those trenches. You can do slaloms around those pipelines, and maybe some of those areas could become potential racetracks for the future.
Loreville will have like racing opportunities, I think, because now there's like tunnels, there's cranes, there's sky bridges, there's like big straddle frames, and these can create target points for racing. For me, the greatest thing was seeing the team come together and pitch ideas and deliver on those challenges and those ideas.
It's been a lot of work from every department, and especially in lighting, I think it's been a big project that we've worked on. And there's so much details that's been put on every one of these areas, and I think I'll be really excited to see how people react to this. I think it's something that people have been expecting for a long time.
I think for the player, the fact that we can go around these areas, whether it's land vehicles or, we're using spaceships, fly around these structures, I think it's going to be a good experience, yeah.
I hope the players appreciate the new Loreville, just the sheer scale, and that it feels like you can see Loreville from Everest station, so it makes it like a big impact, I think. And I hope that the players notice.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that a landing zone is more than just the three-dimensional geo that forms it. It's that confluence where narrative, level design, branding, lighting, and atmospheric artistry meet commerce, residence, and a foundation for future gameplay opportunities like racing, mission interiors, and more, and that this newest evolution of Loreville is scheduled to make its way to you in next month's Alpha 319.
No shame to 319.
For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for exploring the process of game development with us, and we'll see you all here next week.
I missed what they said there. What did they say with the 319 thing?
I completely missed that as well.
Yeah, I'm just gonna... It's clearly a joke because of the look on his face, but...
This newest evolution of Loreville is scheduled to make its way to you in next month's Alpha 319.
No shame to 319.
No shave until 319. Yep. Because he did that famously one time, and they didn't bring the patch out for like 9 months or some shit, and so it's like all the way down here.
For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for exploring the process of game development with us, and we'll see you all here next week.
I'd actually go the other way, and he has to shave until 319. So he has to constantly go bald and constantly shave his beard and he can't grow it back until, yeah, I'd go the other way.
Yeah, yeah. Get some baby face going.
So there's obviously something here at the end, because there's like a bit of, it's probably a...
Yeah, no, vacation was good. Paris, London, saw some shows, saw Phantom. You were right, it was great. It actually kind of reminded me of you, because you can't see your you both got the same beautiful singing voice.
Jimmy.
All right, so you were saying?
Oh no, I was just saying it's Jimmy.
Yes. Oh, Jimmy. Yes. All right, I got to change you back over so you can see, and then we're gonna go back to this one. There we go. Cool. All right, and I got to turn the filter back on real quick, so we don't have some weird noise in the back. I know. I found that very appealing on the eye, I think is how I'd put that. But I also like that it's the maturing of systems. They're going back around. And I start looking forward to them doing that to other things. Like, so, you know, the internals of buildings. I'm sitting here going ArtCorp. I just can't get away from ArtCorp, but like that is going to be such a big project. Like absolutely massive, because like one of the things I could tell you is there are oceans on ArtCorp, right? But literally every surface of the planet is covered in buildings. So imagine Earth, right? Now I don't know what it is at ArtCorp because I don't know, but imagine Earth where so it's majority of it is ocean, but it could be the other way on ArtCorp where majority is land, right? So you get these massive oceans. So think about all the ocean tech on Hurston and stuff like that. That all comes over. You know, they don't want it to be just these grids. Like, you know, when you look at ArtCorp from space at the moment, it just literally looks like a grid because they knew, they knew they were coming back. So they've just kind of left it where they're. But remember that also image. Did you see the? I think it was a CitizenCon or a. It must have been a CitizenCon, and they got fly up an aurora from ArtCorp, and then they looked back at the planet, and it literally looked like Coruscant, like there was big circular ring. If they can make it look like that, if they can pull that off, and you can literally fly. Oh.
Yeah, I think it's a question of like having that visual. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, because I mean, the reason why it's so flippin' difficult is because you've got so many different distances that you're going to witness this thing at. Yeah. And I mean, you'd point out another game that's kind of tried to do that with something that is all there on one planet. So I mean, it's not a task I envy by no means, but like I'm sure they'll
but you can see why they've done it this way, why they've spent so much time making all these tools, right? It was like, well, we can do everything bespoke. It'd be an utter nightmare, or we can build it from the ground up with these tools. And if we ever have to come back, like the big example that I always give is they were able to rebuild the entirety of Stanton in 2 months with 3 people. Like they regenerated, updated the tech, and they've updated that tech 4 or 5 times now, right? So if you extrapolate that out, if you have a team, and I'm just going to use a round number because it's easier. If you have 300 people working on planets, that basically means that you could have 100 planets made in 2 months. Here I'm going with this very quickly, right? Now, I'm not saying that's what they'll do, but say they drop back down to 100 people at Montreal or wherever they build it, you know what I mean? Very quickly, you can extrapolate. If 3 people are working on every system, and yes, that doesn't have the landing zones. I'll give you that, right? Because the landing zones are the thing that take the time. But that doesn't mean that we can't have them, and they add the landing zones over time.
Yeah, I mean, I believe whatever their pipeline is for producing planets and content and making it look good. Because I mean, it's for it to be good at any distance, at any angle, with whatever lighting conditions happen, like that kind of stuff. I mean, and we're not even talking about flipping like ray tracing type stuff later, which would probably help them to a degree, but that's a whole story. I can believe that they would get good momentum. You know, once the tools are done and once they have that pipeline, and you know, I mean, they're still talking about like the UK offices are still, you know, the segments of it are still under construction and stuff like that. So I think that we're still in that, even though it's been a long time, we're still in that space of like they're gearing up to get to the point where they just get that exponential growth, and then we'll see from there.
Essentially, they've been working on just Squadron 42. They are now just, you know, as Squadron 42's like getting polished and stuff. We're in that polishing phase, I believe. As that's starting to occur, you're starting to see the designers move over. You're starting to see some of the artists move over, and they're now starting, as they spool up Frankfurt and spool up Montreal as they're doing, and they're building new studios. Those new studios, not just, you know, the old people move in, but now the building's half full. The other half of the building is going to be people that exclusively work on Squadron 42. Sorry, on Star Citizen, not Squadron 42.
Yeah.
And down the line, say we've got 3 or 4 episodes out of, because they want to do 3 episodes of Squadron 42, that same team, you know, I was talking about expansion packs before, they'll move into the Zion campaign, they'll move into the Banu campaign, they'll move into the Tavara and the Vandal, whatever they want to go. So you'll have this single player team and a multiplayer team. And there's nothing to say down the line when all's said and done and they've had their fun in the sun, they can't roll that people into work on the PU team, and all of a sudden you just get explosive more content. Right, so this game will just ride this wave, and when it's that's the big thing between this game and a normal game. They're not in this for money, like they're in it for making the game. Like you can go back and find videos. Chris Roberts said, all the money we earn before the game goes live will go back into the game. He is in this for the game. He's not in this for money, right? He will take a paycheck just like everyone else, right? But at the end of the day, he was a multimillionaire before he started this, right? He is he's in it for passion.
I think it's very much a passion project, 100%. Yep. I mean, I've never been, you know, if they're running, because you know how the CIG marketing sort of train works, right? And they ebb and flow, and they know exactly what they're doing. They're very good at it. You can't fault them for it. At the end of the day, you know, it's on the entire. If you're upset about the amount of money they're making, it's on the players. It's not on them. You know what I mean? It's on us. We're voting with our wallets essentially, right?
Yeah.
It's just that some people can vote more than others, right? Because people earn different amounts of money.
So Lemming saying in chat, Inforunners, imagine if the art team had remade Loreville focused on the Endeavour 6 months. Now, the reason I bring this up was during the chat, someone noticed your picture in the background that I noticed very fucking quickly before the stream, but we were waiting for someone else to notice. So you can tell me what the fuck have you got 4 Endeavours behind you for, and why is one of them upside down?
Because that's how the tape was. Otherwise it would fall off. And because I watched one of your guys' bloody episodes, and then I found myself getting an Endeavour because there was a sale one. And that's how I actually learned about Inforunners, because I had some money and I was like, hey, let's get an Endeavour. Yeah. I still don't know why. Like I don't even know what modules come with the damn thing. But it's it appealed to me, like in terms of like, I was thinking like, oh wow, I actually thought this thing could be like a mobile jump town. It could be like this mobile thing that like produces drugs or refines drugs or something like that.
That's what I intend to do with mine. I'm going to have one, I don't know if it'll work this way, right? Because obviously things are subject to change, but I wanted one bio, the farm thing. Then I wanted the one lab that transferred it from plants into drugs, and then the last one would be a hangar for like the cutlass or whatever to land to transport said drugs to wherever. So I was just gonna make a drug lab. That was my thought process. Yeah. Well, yeah, I can make a drug lab out of this. And if you had a second one, you could just have one as a farm, and then one as a as the labs, and just have them connected, sitting next to each other.
Yeah, like when I backed the project, my what I wanted to do the most, and it's probably the most difficult thing for a game to do, is like exploration. Like, what is the exploration gonna be like? How's it gonna work? Blah blah blah. But and part of it was that, right? I think there's the astrometrics. There's some kind of big telescope that you can use to like scan and generate data, and then I assume that like, there'd be this cool. Like,
it's a long-range telescope module, essentially, is what it's called.
Yeah, exactly. And you're getting like astrometric type data or whatever, and then you're probably going to load that up or pump it into your MSR or your Herald or whatever, and then ship that back and go back and forth. Whatever.
Our kind of running theory on that at the moment is the Endeavour finds things, long
Yeah.
range, like, so it's the astrologer, it finds things. You then send a carrack to that location, and a carrack is like general space exploration. It might find a planet and goes, oh, this planet's full of copper, takes the note of it, and then they sell that information, and that's when the Odyssey goes in, and the Odyssey is the
yes.
planetary explorer, where something like a Terrapin is more general duty and more short range, but it can it's more of a scout, right? So it's more generalized. So you might take a Terrapin with you in the Odyssey if you want to keep scanning more forward. If you want to focus more on finding ore, you might take a prospector, things like that. So it really depends on what you're specifically going for in the Odyssey in that case. And now I've kind of gone into the Odyssey more, but you can see that the exploration, from what we've been able to work at, is it's all links in a chain. They are all, you're passing the data between different parts of exploration, and there is no perfect vehicle, right? That character is so big, you don't really want to go down to planet. You might want to take the Pisces down because it's just so much cheaper. But then again, as soon as you take the Pisces, the scanner, like, even if they had that scanning version I was talking about earlier, that still won't be as good as a Terrapin. So you can see taking a Terrapin with your Carrack has a benefit, but then the Carrack can go so much further than the Terrapin. But then all of a sudden, as soon as you want to go down to a planet, the Odyssey becomes better because it can go, it's designed to go down to planets. That's why it's got all those VTOLs on it, right? But then do you also want to go down, or can I take the Odyssey out of the back, send that down and make sure it's worthwhile that the Odyssey goes down? You know what I mean? So it's all player choice. It's very interesting how it's all interconnected. Anyway, sorry.
Exactly, but that's the thing. There's like restrictions that allow you to then make meaningful decisions, right? I think that's ultimately what everybody wants out of the game. Is like every time you're playing, you should have meaningful decisions to make. Yeah,
you have to have that positive and negative. One of the things we saw, we don't see it too much anymore, but way back in the early days, and I had to kind of teach Algared to see this, but he now sees it too, and he brings it to my attention as well. Is that there were a lot of people that couldn't, they wanted a ship that did everything. They couldn't articulate that you need to have negatives for a thing to work.
Exactly.
So and the Carrack's a really good example, because when that came out, everyone's like, oh, it does everything. But there are a lot of people that still can't see the negatives to that ship. And the clear, obvious negative to that ship is it is undergunned for a ship of its size, drastically.
Yeah.
But the reason for that is it's not meant to be around other ships. It is that lone wolf. It's not really meant. That's why it gets all those survival mechanics, like the repairs, the medicals, all that thing, is to keep itself alive. Because if shit hits the fan, you got no one else to turn to. If you're on a remote planet that is way out, it might take you a day to get back to where you got to go. I'm not joking. Like, if you are in a new system, it could take you that long to get back, because you don't have the fuel, you don't have the beacons, so it's a shot in a straight line. Still takes you a day to get home.
Multiple sort of like system jumps, and not to mention the QT times between the jumps and stuff. Yeah, no, I can see that.
Real quick, thank you.
I mean, people.
Real quick, thank you for the raid, Daily Noob. I didn't catch the number of people that came in, but I'm sure there was enough. Thank you very much. Good to see you, buddy. All right, sorry, Void, you were saying?
Where was my train of thought?
I interrupted it. My bad.
No, I'm sorry. I've lost it now.
We were talking about exploration, Carrack, Endeavor, Crucible, all that type of thing. That helps you. Nope.
No, not really. I've got something else. Was the introduction of the Odyssey / Carrack Killer, was that the first time that something came in and like directly competed against the other ship in terms of larger ships, right? So like, could we see a alternative to like an Orion or something come in and like shake up the entire sort of play space? It was like Orion pretty much dedicated end game.
So I think for me, I could be completely wrong. It was either like, Paul says this to me a lot. I always blame the marketing team for the bad marketing, but he also thinks that it's got something to do with the ship team trying to push certain ships. But when they called it a Carrack Killer, it is not a Carrack Killer. It is a different form of exploration, right? And we are very informed, most of us, right? Not everyone, and obviously when you're newer, you're not as informed, but I find people that come in and, well, look at Expat Brat, right? She came in at the end of last year, and she is just like a freaking sponge. She's just absorbed everything. And she's one of the, you can tell she's going to become one of the most informed content creators, because she's just absorbing everything. We picked that up very quickly when we had her on. The point I'm trying to get at is we have a very informed audience, and trying to sell something that is not exactly what it is not a good idea. You are not, those marketing people are normal gaming marketers. They're used to dealing with casual gamers. We are more hardcore. We are here for the long haul. We are more informed. When they sold that Carrack, they should have sold, not the Carrack, sorry, the Odyssey, they should have sold it as what it is, and it's a survey ship. And there are evidence to point to it being a survey ship in multiple different areas. The land claims concept sale talks about a survey ship. You can actually go, there's multiple documents you can go through that point heavily to that thing being a survey ship.
Yeah, I mean, the Odyssey is not exactly going to go around scanning jump points down.
Yeah, and so to them, they kind of thought that was boring. So they're like, no, let's sell it as the Carrack Killer because, and then they'll upgrade from their Carrack to the Odyssey. But it's a different form of exploration.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
It's industrial exploration, not. I feel like I'm turning to Algared because normally if Algared was here, he'd be ranting like a madman because this really sets him off, right? And it sets me off too. But I'm just a bit more, I don't know, a little bit more calm than him. But in that regard, it just jilted a lot of people because, those of us that were in the know that could read between the lines were pissed off, and the people that went out and brought it thinking it would be a Carrack Killer. They're not getting what they thought they were getting. Like the characters that Star Trek Enterprise go where no man's gone before. It's that glory of exploration, the people that get all the credit type of thing. Where the Odyssey is more of a workhorse, but it's going to make a shit ton of money. It's literally finding the really valuable things. But it's the thing that's literally right at the end of the chain, But they're going to still have to pay the Carrack for finding it, So the Carrack's probably going to be finding more things more frequently, where this thing is just going to be on one planet and it's going to scan the shit out of the entire planet and find almost everything you can find. And that's what's going to be boring to some people, just not really going anywhere.
Yeah, from my sort of more simple-minded way of looking at things, I never get upset whenever there's new ships announced. For me, it's literally a case of to a degree immersive. The more ships there are, the better, because imagine if we lived in a universe where there were only 50 ships, right? You run into the same types of ships all the time.
Yep.
And the fact that there are so many variations and varieties of ships, just playing the game from hardcore perspective down to a casual perspective, it's just cool to run into a lot of variety and see a lot of different types of ships in different types of places, right? So that's I'll just because of that simple thing, I would never complain about there being too many ships or while they're selling more planned ships or whatever.
It's just like real life, you look at cars as an example. You get certain cars that a lot of people are going to use because it's efficient, it works well, it's cheap. You go the other way and it's extravagant and overpriced and a waste of time. Not everyone drives a Lamborghini because we can't all afford it. That's a part of that too. So I expect it to be exactly the same thing in game. I expect the Terrapin to be far more common than a Carrack, just because of cost. It makes so much more sense. So yeah. All right, I think we have to go back to the questions. Those of you that haven't joined us before, we will be doing questions until a certain amount of time, and then I'll cut them off. And if there are not enough questions and we finish early, then we finish early. That's the way it works here. By the way, we have never finished early. They don't let us. They won't let us leave. But anyway, Right. You're getting a lot of compliments in chat. I hope you've been reading that. Mr. E00 says, Voidy, easily the most entertaining creator in SC. Lucky enough to have. I think that means have you here. I think that's what he's trying to say. But yeah. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
So you're definitely getting some love, man. Yeah, and I do find you very entertaining as well. I did say that to you before the show, though, didn't I?
So yeah. Way more entertaining with the script than live, unfortunately. Sorry, guys.
That's the thing. As a former comedian, I can actually relate to that. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of comedy is rehearsed. That's how you make it more funny. It's a form of acting, essentially.
You're going to line up those jokes in your brain and have them ready to fire.
Yeah. And when we do an improv like this, one of my jokes will completely miss because it's improv, and you haven't tested it. So when I used to write jokes, you would literally test it on friends and family and stuff like that to see how funny they were, and then oh, that's good. Oh well, or you might improve it and change it and do again. Well, that's what I used to do anyway. I don't know if it's the same for you. You're probably pumping out too many videos for ever going to do it the same way.
I don't know. I honestly, I just start writing. I think that'll be pretty funny, or see how it goes, kind of thing. I just wing it, dude. I don't know what I'm doing. Cool. Next question. Monster Ravy says, with the hurricane price bump from the Scorp being so high, do you think there are other ships that are lower than they should be and will get bumped up as other ships release?
I didn't see the final price of the Scorp. I know it was going up, but where did it actually land? I'm gonna Star Citizen. I know it was going up, but I didn't keep an eye out for the final price. I bought a bunch of CCUs. Let's have a look. I always forget which one of these is the best, so that's why they're all bloody open. Nope. All right, here we go. What do you say? Hurricane. Okay, that one hasn't, that hasn't been updated. 210. Okay, so we're not $15. Yeah, that okay. That's that actually, I think that's right where me and Algared thought it was going to go. Now I think about it. So okay, that's interesting. Yeah, 210. What's your thoughts on that? So that puts it. The Antares is 220, I think, off the top of my head. So you kind of got Hurricane, Antares, Scorpius, and I think Scorpius is 240. Don't quote me on that. It's been a hot minute. That kind of puts it where I expect it to be, and I now have to ask questions to myself like, is there another ship coming? Think about it.
Yeah,
Invictus is right around the corner.
Yeah.
And we know there's a thing called the Fury.
What are your thoughts? I actually haven't seen any content on that yet.
Because I'm saving it for probably this weekend.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
I don't like to do it too far away from the sale because then you kind of like hype and then fade. So I rather want to keep it fresh in your mind because then you got 20 days and then it's out. And people will watch it over the week, and that only leaves like a week or two to the thing. So yeah, we'll probably, me and Algared, if he ever wakes up, we'll probably do an episode on this weekend. And if Badger's around, I might even suck him in as well for a military perspective. But they're saying that apparently Badger's computer is broken. So
that's unfortunate.
I've had a look at the leaks and stuff. It has an exit to 0G animation, which highly makes it highly plausible that it doesn't have internals. If it does have internals, there is no back exit animation like the Avenger or the Mustang. So you would have to get out and then go around to the back, right? Which is entirely possible, but we just haven't had a ship like that yet. So it is possible, but more than likely with the name, knowing that we had a ship like this that came out in leaks a couple of years ago from MISC that we heard about, where they were working on a fighter, but then it got shelved. I think this is that same ship that's come back. So we're looking at a fighter from MISC. The rumors flying around at the moment is that it has some kind of bomb bay. And it might be like so you know how you get the Gladiator, and the Gladiator does torpedoes. This is similar to that, but it drops bombs. That's the rumor. There is no evidence of this, and I would put that with a heavy dose of salt. I would so because the other reason for that is that when no bombings in game. The second one is the variant is called the Miru. And Miru basically roughly translates to take care of, especially with healing. So they think that the second version is a healing ship, and some of the things I've heard dropped around is if you think about the A1, how it's got those bombs in the back. So the way I thought of it is think of the Avenger. You could have bomb ones in the back, take them out, and then you put in a medical bed. But you can't, it's not connected, so you have to kind of walk around and do it manually, walk back around. So you can only do the medical stuff when you're landed. You can't go between the two. So it's like a cheap man's Pisces type of thing, right? Makes a lot of sense. We do know we do need that smaller bomber. But then I also ask myself, well, you tell me, you like, the size of that Spirit is fairly large, yeah? I think there is room for a smaller in-atmosphere bomber. I don't know if you
No,
disagree with
100%.
that.
I think that's exactly what the Fury will be. But as soon as if you think of the name, I think they might take this as a. This is me being incredibly speculative.
Hmm.
Maybe it's got to do with like some kind of napalm type explosive. They're going to introduce a new type of explosive,
Funny,
like literal fire.
It's funny you
Fire tech.
mention that because I'm going to mention two things here. So the other thing they found was the code for a tumble storm, right? And then the other thing they found was the code for a thing called a star cluster bomb. So what my theory is at the moment is that new ammo type that you're talking about works on both the Storm and the Fury. So the
So it's
Storm,
not something highly explosive or like napalm like.
well, like a cluster bomb.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of bombs now work on killing with compression, right? So basically, I think the Storm is an artillery piece. So it fires because essentially a piece of artillery is just a bomb that you fire in the atmosphere and then it falls back down. Where a ship is literally just dropping it, so it doesn't have to do the fire mechanic. It's just a drop. So you could take the same ammo and put that into two different things. You just have to do the part where it fires, and then at a certain point it activates and becomes a bomb. Does it not? It's exactly.
Yeah.
It's, you think of the code that's in there. That's not a lot of work. And then essentially it has a model that it detonates, does very little damage, and then just spawns 5 smaller bombs or 10 or whatever it is, and then they do a lot more damage when they land.
Yeah, you can 100% imagine that since the Moab and like the actual bomb dropping stuff got in game, they've been experimenting with more creative and more interesting bomb types.
Well,
So
it helps sell the ship too.
fully on board with that theory.
They defaultly come with these new star bombs, but you can take a star bomb and put it on an A2 or whatever. So not only do older ships get new ammo, but the newer ships have a new thing to push them forward and stuff like that. So that's kind of you got to remember, you got to put a military skew on all this stuff because it's coming at Invictus. So as soon as you put the military, it goes really combat-y really quick. But military can be healing and combat, which is why there's a Miru variant of the Fury, which makes a lot of sense to me. If they actually do bring it out, it could be one variant. The Miru could be like a little drone that just goes out and it's a healing drone. We don't know. Like, it's all speculation at this point, right? But we know that it's got to have some kind of combat skew because it's Invictus, right? The last one is... No, there's 2 more. I'm trying to remember them off the top of my head. One of them is an unknown Aegis item because what they found in the code was there is an empty ship space on the Aegis Day, but nothing to go with it. Storm, Fury, Aegis... Oh, the Sulian. It's like my name. My name's Julian. You just put an S. Sulian. Instead of a J.
100% I mean 100% Gion, right? It's like no brainer.
So and it translates. So Raelian was carry without issue. Sulian translates to fly without issue. So my brain instantly went to a racing ship.
Yeah.
Right? But then the other part of that, someone goes, but then it's not combat. It's not Invictus. Guess what? Alien Week is separate from Invictus. So if you wanted to sell something at Alien Week and it wasn't, it's the perfect time because it's not. It doesn't have to be military based. So it's literally a racing ship from Gatak is what I'm. And I've had a few people go, oh, but Gatak do cargo, so why would they do a racing ship? So the other thing it could be, this is the other theory, is what if it's a smuggling ship? So it's half, and you could have a racing variant as an example. But the thing I pitched to Paul when I talked to Paul about it was, we don't have a starting smuggling ship. The cheapest slash, it's not smallest, but the cheapest ship we have at the moment, the smuggling ship, is technically the Taurus.
Fly without issue. My brain was going to like exotic VIP transportation, like some kind of like weird exotic origin sort of competitor or something. But
so
I think that makes
will you tell me?
Smuggler or racer? Yeah,
they're the only two I can come back to to fly without issue is smuggling or racing. I can't really get to anything else. Like you could say cargo, but when there's another ship that's carry without issue,
or it's just a different size thing.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, you guys let us know your theories in the chat. Do you think it's a smuggling ship or a racing ship? Or, when you ask these questions, boy, do we get some goodies. You get some people coming, oh, yeah, it's a mining ship. you know. But yeah, knowing that restriction of to fly without issue, is there another one that you guys can? I can't see any more than you know. It could technically be a cargo ship. It really could. But that fly without issue like really leads to racing for me. And the only other one is smuggling, because to fly past something like the blockade runner mentality, and knowing that
is there an alien interceptor at the moment, like an alien variant of like a hurricane or something like that?
No. So
Maybe it's an interceptor.
Could be that as well. So it's interesting. But knowing the Zion are so into cargo, and they're really big into trade, much like the Banu Merchantman, the Banu, not the Merchantman. I'd almost expect a smuggling ship from the Banu before the Zion. So I do know that there is a racing version of the Scout. There's actually a model for it that they brought out. It starts with Takada or something like that. It's like a Japanese name, and it's kind of yellow, white, and black. And oh man, I could probably find it in my trove of extras that I've got over the years. But yeah, there's definitely that. So we know that there are racing variants of ships from the Zion. So I favor racing, just knowing all the racing tracks that came in. So we'll see.
I think that might be the thing. Yeah, I'm leaning towards racing. Anyway,
so
the next question.
Real quick. Contact says the only time you fly without issue is when you're not seen. There's no cloak in the game. But could it be an espionage ship? E-warfare,
like an Eclipse competitor.
E-warfare.
Yeah.
Bombing. You could be. So that's good. That's good. Got my brain ticking over now. All right, next question. Sorry to.
Spacey Jones with a 3 says, how to get a Kraken cheaper than the 1,400 Warbond price? That is a question for you, my good sir.
It's not one I think I really want to publicly share. Let's just put it this way: Australian dollars to American dollars, and people wanting to get out of the game.
Arbitrage.
I think that so not having to pay the taxes by buying stuff from a third party. That's essentially how I did it. You can work out the rest from that if you're clever enough. And if you want to find out more, I'm sure you can drop a question on our Discord, and someone will answer that for you. There are others that knew how I did it as well, but it took time because you gotta. Well, one, I had to save because I'm not that wealthy. Two, I had to find people that were willing to part at certain prices, and then I had to literally get American friends to get it for me, because there is no hope in hell that I'm going to win that F5 war. So I had to get. There was 2 gentlemen that tried to get it for me, and one of them was successful. So yeah, thank them for that. Right, yeah. And if you like Daily Noob, he likes feet pics. So just send all your feet pics to Daily Noob. He's a big fan of feet pics. Almost more than Astropub does. Astropub likes them too, so we'll see. Apparently he's going to get me back for this, but I don't know how he's going to do it. But yeah. Anyway,
I thought he liked Redeemer picks.
Sorry,
I get them confused.
Yeah. He likes Redeemers, like feet on Redeemers. That's his jam. Yeah. Like he just instant nuts.
Ultimate kink, and we don't kink shame. It's all good.
Yeah.
Cool. Giga Goose asks, do you think we will get a multi-purpose alien ship comparable to the Cuddy Black or the Freelancer? I don't know, but I flip and hope so. That'd be badass.
Yeah, I'm more thinking the general purpose stuff is the stuff we would see in those expansion packs that we talked about earlier.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, it does.
But that's long down the track, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, with 2 more episodes coming of Star Citizen, that's like at least, they said 2 years between campaigns. So you're looking, like, say Star Citizen comes out the end of next year. Squadron 42 comes out the end of next year. It would be 2 years after that for the first one, and then 2 years again. You're looking at 6 years from Squadron Episode 1 till the first expansion pack at minimum.
So then what would the time difference be between Squadron 41 Part 1 and then Part 2?
2 years.
Less than a year?
2 years. They said 2 years.
Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood what you're saying. Yeah, so 6 years and then expansions. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Well,
cool.
And that's not to say that the expansion doesn't take longer to develop. That's if they can do it in 2 years. So it might take longer because they've got to make all those alien ships.
Cool. Okay. Next question. Gadooby Dooby Dooby Dish asks, Voidy, who is best, Nerve, Fair, or Gadu? That question is not fair. Anyway, moving on.
What is
Herald?
Sorry. Which question was that?
It was the one
Near,
after
fair, or
Goose's
get...
question.
I don't get that. Who is?
Yeah, he's
near,
asking
fair, or
about
get...
he's asking about people that I play the game with in our videos.
Ah, okay. Is there not a new Aegis ship leaked in the patch notes? Yes, there was.
Oh, I missed that one.
That's
Sorry.
all right. And that was one John Mortimer. Do we think they'll get a... Yeah, there's a couple over here that we missed. So, do you think we'll get a multi-purpose alien ship compared with the Katie Black France? No, so we did actually do that one. Apologies for that. That was from Gigagoose. Voidy, who did that one. And they're up to Harold Palmer. So, who says, VoiDude, out of Slam, ETAM, Widow, or Neon, which one would you choose?
Obviously, Slam.
And why is that? More profitable?
Stupid question. Yeah, Slam's more the one that's worth the most. I'm just joking, Harold.
Do you think down the line that stuff's going to change? And what I mean by that is because it's worth more, it'll be rarer or harder to obtain.
I think it's all going to fluctuate, right? Based on what's it called again? The quantum stuff.
Yep.
I think drugs will fluctuate. Everything will fluctuate. It'll be great.
What area of the universe you're in?
When people run out of Slam,
how far you
the
transport
price
it?
goes up. Yeah.
Well, if you're
No,
prepared to
100%.
transport it 6 systems and go through all that risk
Or
to get it there,
if you're prepared to get it raw and refine it yourself in something like a Endeavor. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yep, no, I totally agree. So it's how far you are willing to risk to get it there. Yeah, absolutely. Risk versus reward, player choice, all that stuff we mentioned before. So,
Yeah.
Gadu Badish says, do you agree with the following statement? Gadu is greater than Nivir.
No comment.
And not playing favorites. Right, Madison Rose, the Mystic Expanse is the starter refinery ship. I was wondering, what manufacturer would be the medium, large, and maybe the capital size refinery ship be? Well, from my perspective, you've got RSI as an industrial manufacturer, you've got Argo as an industrial manufacturer, Crusader leans a little bit to there, but I think the other outlier is Consulted Outland. We've also seen Drake as an industrial manufacturer now, but they're heavily skewed towards salvage. But then again, they could do what they did with mining and double up. So why couldn't we possibly see another MISC? Just putting it out there. So we'll see. You could even see an Aegis one. They make the Reclaimer. Why wouldn't they make a refinery ship to work with the Reclaimer? Who knows? We'll have to. Let's kind of wait and see. But so that's the great thing now is there's enough choices that they have out there that they can pick now. You know, what do we feel like making now? And I was saying this to Algared the other day, maybe a week ago. It's really interesting now how last year they didn't have enough ships on the roadmap, and so you could tell what was coming. Right, so anytime there was a leak, it's like, oh, that's coming in Invictus, or that's coming in AIE. Now they've got this, you know, like 10 or 20 ships out there. It's like, oh, which one's coming now? So whoever thought of that at CIG, brilliant move, because now it's a lot harder to detect what, like, flood the market with ideas, and then you can't tell which ones are coming. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. You know, so we get a bit of a heads up of what's coming, but we'll look at the SRV. SRV was kind of polished off or almost there at the end of last year. It's still not out. Not coming at Invictus. Probably not coming to AIE this year.
Do you think we'd see a dedicated refinery ship next to the, you know, the Orion does refining already, but it's not a dedicated refiner, it's a miner / refiner.
So let me clarify. The other thing is he asked about a large ship. The large ship is the Galaxy.
Orion.
The Galaxy. Galaxy has refining
the
on
module,
board.
The module. Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
So yes, we are expecting there to be a small, medium, large, and capital for every class of ship. They've stated they're going to try and do that, right?
Yeah, would make sense.
Won't happen on every single one. So you could expect that we have the Vulture and the Reclaimer, that there are 2 ships that'll sit between those 2. But they might go, oh, there's not enough room for 2, so we'll just do a medium or we'll just do a large, right? They haven't, you know, eventually it will come. Okay. So in regards to the refining, we technically do have 2 of them. So technically, the other thing that was really interesting though is the way they seem to be changing things in the refining space is the size of things. So it's really interesting. You look at the Expanse; it's 6 small refineries. The only other ship that has a refinery that's not a refinery ship at the moment is technically the Starfarer, where it only has 3 small refineries, right? And to bring this back to your question, the reason I bring the Starfarer up is I believe that the Orion will be very similar to the Starfarer. It'll have maybe 3 smalls or 1 medium or 1 large or whatever it is. But what it's really for is just to remove that volatility of stuff so it doesn't explode. Kind of like the mole is. You know how the mole's actually got this whole sorting thing in it, but it can sort it all, but you got to get back because it doesn't have the, that's the disadvantage to that ship. It doesn't have a refinery on board to remove the volatility. So you can grab it and it's highly profitable, but it's risk versus reward. Where the Orion is going to be munching an entire rock, it can't just drop what it's doing and go. So it needs a way to remove that volatility. But its weakness is it's sitting in the same place, lighting up like a Christmas tree, saying, come get me, come get me, come get me.
Mm-hmm.
Different negatives. Just like there are different positives, you've got to have different negatives.
Yeah.
So I don't think, and just so you know, originally the Reclaimer had a refinery, and it's now called a processing unit. It's changed. So I think much like that, and that's why what we realized when the Expanse came out. Oh wait, it's got twice as many refineries as a Starfarer, and that's when we clicked. Well, why does it need one? Well, it just needs to be able to remove that. So you could bring say a prospector comes along or a mole comes along, and it's like, oh shit, I've got this containium, it's going to explode in 2 minutes. Offloads it to the Starfarer. The Starfarer can remove the volatility, no problem. All right, does that kind of make sense, or have I gone all silent on me?
No, I think that makes sense. Mining and industry is not my forte.
That's
I'm
That's all
yeah.
good. All right, Mason Ray
I'm a dumb
says.
runner.
Oh, that's the one we just did.
Walker 300.
Yep, go for it. You read, go for it.
Do you think there will be a large surface vehicle that mines underground like the prospector shown?
Yeah, it's called the
Most
RSI
likely.
landing vehicle. Oh, you mean what? Did you say the land vehicle? Yeah, we could definitely have a land mining vehicle, 100%. I almost would be willing to bet almost every ship that we see in space there is a land equivalent. And variants of that. So like we'll eventually see a fire truck, and the equivalent of that in space would be like an rapid decompression vehicle to rescue people. Because you don't have fire in space. So what's the equivalent of that? Something that, you go to an area and the whole window's been blown out. It just like sits over, kind of puts some kind of seal in place and re-oxygizes the room so they can rescue people. And you're more likely to probably see that at ports. It's probably made by Argo, because if something goes wrong, that you got to have a rescue vehicle. And, by the time, if they get out to, if you're way out where they get out there, they're going to decompress it and go in, but everyone's going to be dead because it was like 15 minutes ago, so we'll see. All right. Aurelius Dominus says, question to X, do you find the Orion a less interesting and maybe boring gameplay? I think it's going back to what I was saying about the Orion earlier. For me, it's a more stable income. That's what I was trying to get at, and I probably didn't articulate it properly. When I was talking about the open pit mining and stuff, like really big mines are just that the way they make money is on volume, right? Where
and I mean it's got the multi crew component to it as well, right? You're not going to be soloing in the Orion like you would be in the Prospector, and that brings its whole dynamic, right? I mean, if you've done salvaging with friends, it actually becomes quite a logistical operation where you got to chat and be like, cool, you bring the ship here, I'm going to load up here, and it becomes a whole thing. I imagine the Orion will be a very similar process of like figuring out and turn, like optimizing yourself as a team to get faster and more efficient.
And you'll probably have someone literally dedicated in a terrapin trying to find the best rocks while you're doing it. Like one of the things we've theorized and looked at, and you can already see it already, like when you go out in a Reclaimer, it's really good to have your scout in a vulture, so he's at least got something to do. But eventually you could see one terrapin going out with, I don't know, pick a number, 5 Reclaimers, because he's finding rocks so quickly. But it takes them so long to just strip at the moment. We're not talking about stripping and, cutting, and it's going to take so much longer.
Months,
so having a terrapin with you, you're going to want to have a lot of Reclaimers just to feed that, one terrapin.
And then like have a route,
Yeah. So, getting them to work together, you can see eventually you might only need one terrapin for a bunch of them. But getting back to the mining, it's the same thing. You might have one terrapin with a whole fleet of Orions. finding that rock, you know, and that terrapin's tailored for it puts on the particular scanners for rock mining, and that terrapin operator would obviously know the most profitable rocks and things like that. So he knows exactly what's the, he can go, right, so this whole massive asteroid, the 60% of this is like highly profitable, where this one over here is only 20%. It's going to take the same amount of time. This is the one you should go for. And he might also, the other thing we're finding is you don't just go out with a reclaimer, because there are benefits to having the other vehicles. Like, so for example, just to take that analogy, I had a 40% rock and a 60% rock. Hang on, but that 40% is all in one node, so we'll use the landminer and just go for that little node.
Yeah.
A strength and weakness to everything, player choice. So it all comes full circle again.
Trade-offs, yeah. I can already see them doing this stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Y'all already hit my question. Yep, we did. Okay, apparently. Mason Roach question: with the multiple solar systems in the future existing, do you think certain, well, that's not how to spell certain, but okay, systems have a debuff or buff for certain, spelling certain SURTIN, which is kind of funny. Anyway, ships manufacturers, for example, Crusader is not resistant to solar flares. Wait, do you think certain systems have? Yes, they will, 100%. Kind of going back to right earlier on, we talked about Drake breaking more frequently, but being cheaper to replace. The same thing. You might look at the Endeavor. It actually has a solar flare resistant cab. They might even bring out armors. So you go in a particular system, like Pyro originally had these massive solar flares. I think it still kind of does, but not to the same extreme. But can you imagine a really hazardous system where you, this is going to be, may or may not work for you. When you get chains put on your tires so you can go into snow, a special equipment that you got to put on, same thing. You got to put on special armor to go into that area because whatever reason.
I don't think it's going to be restricted to ship manufacturer. I mean, maybe there'll be like a granular capability per manufacturer, right? Like Crusader can equip this array of like stuff to help you in certain conditions, and this type of ship can equip a different array of things to help you. And
you're right. It's probably too restrictive if it's all of a sudden like no Drake ship can go into the system, right? That costs too much money. But like in your power plant, you must have this particular module so it runs at a certain frequency so you can operate in the system, or your scanner has to have this so you can see these invisible gravity waves. That's the type of shit I can expect to see, taking the sub modules and doing stuff like that. Or a particular shield or a particular armor or things like that anyone can apply. Manufacturer, I kind of come back to what Void said. I think it's a bit too strong. Because that basically means that I just happen to buy a Drake ship and now I've got to buy a whole new ship just to get into that system. That's a bit excessive.
Yeah, and I think it also boils down to like the component mechanisms that they're talking about. It's like, how do you wish to run your components? Do you want them to be long-term, low maintenance, or like push them to their limits and maintain them quicker? Maybe that kind of stuff will help with these certain situations, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah. No, 100%.
Like you need to overtune your shields, and so it would never be manufacturer restricted, right? It'll just be how you manage that component. Like you need really good shields to go to the certain area, and you can only keep them up for a certain amount of time. Get in, do the thing that you want to do, be it mining or salvage or whatever, and then get out.
Yeah. Okay. All right, got to tick that one off. Gremlin Bay says, you gents ready for Liberation Workers front missions in conflict zones? That is an arrogant question because I'm not up on my lore. I'm assuming that's got something to do with
the salvage
Hearthstone.
contracts? I thought it was maybe the salvage contracts.
You gents ready for Liberation Workers front missions in conflict zones? I need that explained. I'm not up on my lore like the other gents, so yeah, sorry. I'm assuming that's new missions. Yeah, new missions are always a good thing. New gameplay is always a good thing. We did an episode this week on the mission system that Paul wanted to do, and I thought it was actually quite a good episode because it is going to change the game quite. This year is another one of those things where, you know how last year was lots of little small things that added up to the whole year? I think this year is kind of like more medium things that add up to a bigger year at the end. So, some core underlying systems like the quest system and all that, and you can see it's all moving up to server meshing, rolling out at the end of the year into the next year type of thing. So they're all these things starting to come in place that require server mission to work really, really well. So yeah. Someone said he thinks it's Monster Avery says thinks it's an uwu joke mixed in with new missions. Yeah, absolutely. We need some uwu. I don't know. I think at this point, if they don't have a tip of a hat to Algared, some Redhurst to not be a little bit upset, but who knows? We'll see what they do. Dustin Lee Bladesmith says, with detachable items and physical items becoming more prevalent, do you think that we'll make considerations for pop-up storefronts? Sorry, not stone. Pop-up storefronts that might enable ships like BMM and Imagine Corsair shops. I think a lot of people will start trading, like bespokely trading when you can give an item to another player. Because right now, the only thing you can do is kind of drop it on the ground. So they'll send you the money and you'll just drop it on the ground. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think players will do whatever the most optimal thing is, right? If these components, if you can make money out of it, and it's not just you know, for the shits and giggles of it, then people will figure out a way to do it and trade in components and stuff like that. It's very situational at the moment, but I think long term, absolutely, like 100%, you'll see more of this kind of stuff become, you know, the way to actually, you know, as soon as it becomes profitable in whatever way, the shape or form that takes, be it just raw AUC or, you know, something else. If the players are incentivized to do it and it's the optimal way to do it, then 100% you'll see it.
Well, I just changed the title because Sangroper asked me to, but apparently he's left, so he won't see the insult that I chucked his way. But anyway, I'll have to change it back now. He went off at me because I hadn't updated the title on on Twitch, so I just said Sangroper is weird. All right, I'll just change it back to weekly Q&A. Now he's gone. Anyway, right. Right, next question, I guess. Death factor. Do you think we'll get one of those crazy polar elevators like the Total Recall? Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. That kind of came up in my head last week. So he's talking about a planetary elevator from ground to... Oh, no, he's talking about the one in Total Recall that goes through the planet. He's talking about the newer Total Recall, right? Yeah, the one that goes through the planet. Actually, the closest thing to that is the Vandal actually have these snake elevator things. And I'll see if I can... Oh, man, I'm going to... Vandal elevator. Man, if this comes up first go, I'm going to be impressed with myself, but I don't think they will. No. Vandal... Wait.
Was it concept art or something?
Yeah, it's concept art, but when you see it, you'll understand what I'm looking for.
From like a Vandal base, or was it like part of Kingship or something?
So it shows these planet. It shows this planet, and there's like these giant snakes that just kind of come up in the atmosphere, like
cable type things,
and they're like, and it looks like a train that's almost sideways because it's got little cars all the way along. But what it is literally their version of elevators, and the ships just kind of like fly along and attach to the snake. And I'm sure someone might be able to link it to me or something like that. I don't know if but yeah, I can't remember.
To the question, I think that'll be absolutely like landing zone dependent, because I mean CIG take a lot of inspiration from like other, you know,
there we go,
sci-fi universes.
I found it. There's one of them there.
Oh heck, I've never seen it before.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't seen this, and that is, it actually looks fairly in game to me. Wait, I need to, just realized I haven't switched chat over. There you go. So that's what I was talking about. And there's another one behind me. There we go. So yeah, that is a Vandal space elevator-y thing. Yeah.
I assume that thing is like sucking up resources in some way.
Yep. Goddamn Waffle, shut up. Yeah, I do forget to take you with sometime. You got to remember, I'm driving everything. So, and Agrid's not here to annoy me this week, so I'm struggling. I'm struggling hard with him.
I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing.
No. He carries a bit, right? So he does the front stuff and I do all the back stuff. That's just kind of how our relationship works, you know? But yeah, it's all good. We've gone invisible again. I'll try and bring you back. Hold on. But yeah, so no, that's all good. It's just the way the internet. Look, I'm dealing with Algared. He drops out way more than you. So yeah. All right. I do think there will be a planet though that does have an elevate that goes through the planet. We do know that well, look at all the bunkers and stuff like that. What would stop them from literally just having, you think about it, they build a bunker and they go, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we have this elevator that goes to all the way to the other side of the planet?
Yeah, like some kind of like tether with like the space station right there or something.
And if you think about how the elevators right now that move through the space station, it doesn't matter if it's curved or anything because it's just following a spline. So all they do is build a custom big ass elevator. And it's literally almost like a ship that just flies from. It's just a tram. I mean, isn't it just a tram that we have right
trams,
now?
Trams, exactly. Pretty much like similar sort of take, but there is still some magic going on with the elevators.
Trams are just elevators with windows.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you really wanted to, if they wanted to go that extra mile and actually put windows in those elevators, they could literally have lava flying past, dead squirrels, whatever, a dinosaur, whatever, as you're going from, they could do that. You could go through a cavernous area and all these crystals appear and diamonds. They could do that. If they want to go to that extra depth, they can. If they just want to have an elevator go down and it goes into some kind of scientific lab and it's got all those crystals, they can do that too. That's the thing. With this engine that they've built, the world is their oyster, literally.
Yeah, you see how much like effort and like thought and like style and like branding and just like visual distinction goes into something just like Loreville. Extrapolate that onto the myriad of other systems and stuff. They're going to get creative. They're going to do some cool shit. Yeah. Well, and you could probably just look at the star map. The out of game the what's it called, Star Atlas? What's it called?
Star map.
The star map, like the Chrome one, not Chrome, the flipping the web-based browser version of the map.
It's called the star map. Is
it Star Atlas or Atlas or something?
No,
anyway, you can look at that and probably get some nuggets of like what you could expect at certain places and stuff like that.
It's just called the star map.
Oh shit!
It's just the star map. Yep.
The Arc star map. That's the word I was looking for.
Ah, okay. There we go. Yeah. So anyway. I hope there's a little bit of something interesting there that I've pulled out of the archives that you guys hadn't seen before. So,
is there a name associated with that image at all?
I cannot remember. It's been that long. Like that is really old.
Yeah.
So,
cool. I'll just try and say this name. Slagzane asks, considering the Perseus is pretty much the same size and crew as a Hammerhead, why do you think CRG has not released it live?
Because it's not the same size as a Hammerhead. It's slightly
bigger,
different,
right?
And it's made by a different manufacturer, and it requires bespoke ammo types. There is gameplay associated with that thing that is not in game yet, and it's also got to be made. It's got to be made. It hasn't been made. It's just a concept right now.
This is RSI, right?
Yeah.
So the capital size RSI ships are still very much all in development, right?
Well,
they just haven't been made yet.
We've been theorizing for a long time, like how a lot of stuff we don't do in the background is like how they're going to build the game, and we worked out ages ago that a lot of the ships they're going to sell is from worst to best, and that's kind of what they're doing, right? But also, if you make you can have a smaller team work on a small ship, so you can have one guy like work on the Nox, the X1, things like that because they're small. When you scale up something bigger, you got to have bigger teams. Bigger teams cost more money. They don't have money, but they've been rolling out into bigger teams. They've mainly been working on Squadron 42. So when they move over to more people working on Star Citizen, they're going to have big ship teams. And so they'll just go, well, we're going to bang 5 of these out together. So 5 RSI ships, and we've listed these a couple of times, the Apollo, the Perseus, the Miner, the Polaris, blah, blah, blah. But they're building out the Polaris. They use that as the starting ground, and then they can take a door, slightly change the texture, slightly change the model. There's a whole new door.
Yeah.
That works on another ship. So, and the other thing you'll notice is when you look at most of the ship manufacturers, while the outsides are very bespoke, the insides are very similar, right?
Yeah.
So really, you can have a couple of people working on the exterior, and then most of the team is just working on the interior. Or less, you know what I mean? You get where I'm going with this, right? So they can roll out multiple big ships at the same time. So essentially what I'm trying to say is we theorized they're going to do most of the big ships later when they had a bigger team to do so. And I think that's where it's going. Why don't we have a lot of consolidated outline ships? Because maybe they're better ships and they want to sell them. You know what I mean? So we're going to see more ships come that go straight to flight ready, that are better. We've also theorized the more scalable ships are the ones in the middle. So the large and medium ships, like right now, most of the medium and large ships are generalized ships. Even the Galaxy, look at that, like it just came out at the end of last year, highly generalized because it does multiple modules. But for example, we don't have a medium salvage ship. We don't have a medium science ship, things like that. But they're probably going to be they scale up and down, but they don't, like a large capital ship doesn't scale down. It can scale down, but it can't scale up. Sorry. You know what I mean? And just as a small ship can only scale up, it can't scale down. So there's just not as much movement for them to move. So, and that's something we're seeing. Like you can go if you're bored, go through and look, and you'll notice that most of the medium large ships are the ones that are missing. Where we've got shit tons of smalls, and as you go,
very specific gameplay types, right?
Yeah, and when you go to the top, we've got almost all the capitals, but the capitals become like they can do almost everything. That they do it all in volume. Where when you go, when you go down, they become more generalized. You'll see it anyway when it comes through, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah,
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Cool. Mongo Mo asks, how many waves do they do during the IAE sale? The last time Execute spoke to Paul about the Pioneer. I want to try and play the F5 War for one now.
Yep. So earlier years they did 4. I think we're down to 3. Lemming might let me know. Lemming, I believe they're down to 3 waves now, aren't they? Just off the top of my head. And if I've got that wrong, someone will chat. Let me know. But I believe they're 3. They do 1 every 8 hours. So there's 1 right off the bat, and then 2 more after that. About every 8 hours. So yeah. And that's AIE, but it's the same as Invictus. So yeah. Question: how many waves do they do during the AIE? The last time I spoke to Paul about the Pioneer, I want to try and play the FI1. Yeah,
that's a question.
Except the Pioneer won't be at Invictus; it'll only be at AIE. So you'll have to wait 6 more months after Invictus. That's the only thing that I'd add to that. Right. Mason Roach 17 says, do you think CIG will have a Crusader capital ship, and what would it be? I think they will eventually have a capital ship, for at least one, for almost every manufacturer in the game, as in ship manufacturer. The original concepted ship in lore was the Jupiter, which was a really massive ship they used to deliver their ships to people. So imagine a ship that carries like 4 Hercules at once, type of thing.
Like a capital size Liberator.
But they specifically talk about it like carrying them like underneath itself. So I pictured was like imagine like a sky crane of today, but it's got like 4 tractor beams on it, and it just like sucks them up and holds them there, and then just drags them.
Goes off. Yeah. That'd be pretty cool.
That's kind of what we pictured, but it could be completely different. Do I think we'll see that in game? Probably not. Because one of the things I learned talking to the military guys is ships that can kind of take themselves the distance. It works out cheaper and more economical just to have them do it themselves, right? Because as soon as you take, say it only takes one person to fly that big ship, right? But then you need someone to cover them. And as soon as you've done that, you've got to have multiple people to cover them. Those multiple people are better to be in the smaller ships on their own, because if something goes wrong, you only lose that one ship, not all 4. So I think that's why you won't tend to see like Bengal's probably an exception to the rule, where you can have a massive big ship where they land inside and stuff like that. That's why the Kraken only does up to medium, as an example. You don't see you can't land a Carrack or a Caterpillar on the back of a like you can do it in the Bengal. That's it. And that's like our biggest military ship, essentially, besides the Retribution and the Pegasus that the humans have. So it's an exception, not the rule. And again, it's not player owned. So yeah. All right. I don't know. What manufacturer? I'll kind of put this question back to you. What manufacturer would you like to see to a capital ship if you had to pick one that hasn't been?
I'm just kind of running through like what. At the moment, I'm comparing things like the Kraken to the Idris, right? And like how they differentiate themselves, and then extrapolate that onto like various other things.
Well, I can extrapolate it really quick for you. A Javelin that is the size of a Kraken and Idris. you know, because the Kraken is kind of the support ship with a little bit of combat. The Idris is a lot more combat and a lot less support, but they're both in that support sphere, right? So you don't have any full combat one. You don't have any industrial size. I'm not saying that we will get, like, I think once you get to that size, it becomes more about supporting other ships. So again, we might see one that is like, it might just hold like 4 medium ships.
Yeah.
So
if you look at Crusader and their fighters are like so specialized, right? Imagine a capital-sized Crusader ship that is like filled with snubs, filled with like some unique sort of small single fighter ships.
Kind of a little bit like the Battlestar Galactica, where the Raiders dropped off. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, 100%.
Something like that. If another company fits that bill better, maybe there would be something.
I had an idea for a ship that's really weird, super weird, but I'll tell you, it was, and this was years ago, so I've probably moved on for a bit from now, but it was essentially a ring, and it had, there was a primary ship, and it kind of like controlled the other ships, but basically you flew in the ring, and then when you got to where you were going, the pilots would go out and like jump in the Merlin. So imagine 6 Merlins that attach to the outside, and it flies in a ring, and it's got like a cockpit, and basically you all abandon the ring, so one person just flies and everyone else can get in bunks or whatever. So it gives long range ability to the Merlins, and then when it gets there, they all just detach and fly off.
The quantum drive or whatever is on the ring.
Yeah.
All the stuff. So it's kind of like Endeavor in a way, where like you've got certain functions tied to its base, but when you separate for combat or whatever other mechanism, then you're without that.
Yeah, so it's just this really cheap kind of wireframey tunnel ring, and all the Merlins are attached to it, and just one little room that they all climb, like, you know, climb through ladders to get to. And when they get there, all it is just some living quarters and the engine. But the engine, you know, there's an engine behind every Merlin because it flies in a ring, and so this ring just flies in. They all detach and just go fight, and then if it survives, they get back in the ring and go home. But if not, they're stuck there, you know?
Yeah. Like ultimate multi-crew / dogfighting ship,
Yeah, so what you're going in, the reason you do that is so it's survivability in numbers. So instead of 6 people being in one ship, it's just, you just want that annoyance from all these little small ships. So I don't know, they may do something like that, they may never do something like that, but that's another ship manufacturer I'd like to see ships from too. Is and I know Algared does too, is I'm having a brain fart. Kruger. He's a big fan of Kruger ships, so yeah. As for a capital ship, I think Anvil. I think it's time we got another military ship from Anvil. Like they are meant to be the competitor to Aegis, yet they don't.
So where's their?
They don't have.
What's the Aegis competitor?
They don't have a capital. Like I'm just making sure. No, Liberator might. No, let's check that. I don't think it's capital. Because it's got to have a capital component. I'll have to check that. But you get my point. The Liberator, the Carrack are the big. Carrack is the most expensive one they sell. But even then, it's only a large. Right. So my point being is they're meant to be this premier military manufacturer. Then where's as you said, where's their Idris? Where's their
big ships?
Yeah. Where's their Javelin competitor? Where's their, all that stuff in between. And they would be a good contender for the ship that I was talking about. Like you take a Javelin and make it Idris size. That's more focused on combat and doesn't support ships. It's just all guns, and maybe like the Javelin, it's just got like one medium pad or something like that. That thing will sell. There's been rumors for years and years and years of people that went on studios tours and saw ships. I know even Board Gamers said he's seen things that have not come out when I've talked with him in the past. And I've had multiple people tell me about an Anvil ship that they saw that had 2 railguns, one on each side. So you take the Idris with one on the front, and you have to turn the entire ship. And we know the Bengal's a thing, and it's got 3 or 4, I'd have to count again, underneath, and that's a turret that fires. Now imagine a ship where it just got 2 turrets that are railguns. And then the player choice becomes they have to be in front or behind you, or below you or above or whatever, for you to be able to shoot both at the same time. So that's a player choice. You've got to be able to position the ship. a negative.
Yeah, and it sacrifices even more support capability, right? So like less support
Yep.
than the Idris even, but more firepower and
Well,
more specialized, right?
Well, I could even see that being the third ship in a Polaris size ship. You know, like
Yeah, 100%.
They could make two of them. They could even have
Yeah.
some kind of crazy concept where it's Voltron, and fucking two anvils join together, and you get the Aegis size one, and then it detaches, and they can go anywhere with this. That's the best part about it. Like, I can see John Crew rolling his eyes at me right now, going, "Shut up! Don't get on my dance." But yeah, all right, we'll move on.
So Daniel asks.
Oh no,
sorry, you go for it.
DGSM9 is the next one.
How do you see the 600i in terms of exploration?
I talked about this last week. I think it's a bad ship because it costs more to run. It doesn't have the long range capabilities that a Carrack does, and by the time you reduce the price of the Pisces, basically they are not that much different in price. You basically, what is it, $60? So $40, it's like another $60 difference between the two. And the Carrack has all the repair facilities, the medical facilities. I know they're getting medical facilities on the 600 now, but like it doesn't have the repair facilities, so it just can't go as far. It doesn't have any of the cartography rooms, so it just doesn't have the expandability that the Carrack has. And for the extra money, I'll pay the extra $60. And it's a more dedicated role to that, and it's got all the modules on it as well.
And the Carrack is not Origin.
Yeah, and that's just a plus in my book. And you got to remember, again, if it breaks down and you don't have your own repair facilities, the anvil breaks down and it can repair itself. If the Origin breaks down, it can't repair itself. It's also going to cost a fortune. Also, being Origin, it's like if my Ferrari breaks down, I can't just go to my normal garage and get it fixed. Because they've also now talked about having manufacturer shipyards. So when that happens, if my Origin breaks down, I might have to travel 4 systems to get it fixed. But Drake is everywhere. So
like,
you know what I mean?
This, I see where you're going with this, but are we talking about like, because then you're, like a Crucible should be able to repair anything, right? So it's
Yes.
not going to be like, oh no, sorry, your Origin, I can't repair you.
But then you've got to take
are we talking more in terms of?
But again, that limits how far the 600i can go. Because if it's got to stay within the safety of where it's able to be repaired, but the Carrack can go as far as it wants because it can repair itself. You've just made my point for me.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
It's just a no-brainer to me. Like if they're going to put medical facilities on that, they need to put repair facilities on that. But as soon as they do that, it treads on the Carrack, and they won't do that yet. So what you're essentially trying to do is you're trying to take an Explorer-like ship and having that party bus element with it, but you're getting that jack of all trades, master of none approach. So if you really are into that role-playing, touring gameplay, like that VIP stuff really appeals to you, and the exploration appeals to you, cool. But notice you're losing out on it a little bit. But the only alternative is to buy a Carrack and buy a 600i, or buy a Carrack and an 890 jump, or whatever it is, right? So it's that if you've got it, can only buy one 600i. If you want that gameplay, buy two. Two individual. Best tool for the job. We're talking about this quite a bit. Like what it's kind of like flexibility versus the best. Yeah. So like a Caterpillar or a Galaxy is not going to be the best at what it does, but it does a lot. Just like the Endeavor. The Endeavor is not going to be the best at what it does. Because they'll more than likely have like an Apollo. Look at an Apollo compared to an Endeavor, right? It moves faster. It's cheaper to use. Stuff like that. It's going to move around. Where the Endeavor's kind of going to be in space. It does volume. Respawning people in the hospital beds and stuff like that. But it costs a lot to run because it's much bigger, right? So there are pros and cons to everything. But you're far more likely to get an Apollo to rock up to a conflict site than an entire Endeavor, but an Endeavor would get called in if it's a massive, huge conflict because of just volume. Yeah.
Because now you get volume beds and all that shit. I can see that.
Yeah.
100%. Cool.
Daniel,
could we expect the Drake Kraken in player hands by Pyro 4.0 or shortly after? My thoughts are Polaris first, Capital, then Kraken.
So we know that they updated the exterior of the Kraken now. I know someone. Oh, where did I find that confirmed? I found it recently, and maybe someone can link it in chat or can just say that they saw it somewhere as well. But I'm pretty sure that that's what I said. Something about the external model, not the internals. So I reckon what they're going to do with that Kraken is what they did with the Idris. So you know how you can use the Idris in game and you can shoot it and it blows up, but there's no internals. I reckon they're going to make the Kraken the Idris of Pyro. We've also seen the externals of the Kraken in the latest Antares ad. So we know there's a version of it around somewhere, right? So I think what we'll see is a Kraken that maybe they even add AI in and ships take off it and they fight you with the Buccaneers or whatever ships they put on it. Yeah, but that's what I reckon we're going to see. We're going to see a Kraken as an Idris in Pyro. And much like they come into Stanton and we have little Xeno threats and stuff like that, I almost expect Microtech, Security, Hurston, Crusader, ArtCorp to be going in there to pushing them back as well. So this little interaction or tiff between different systems, I think that's kind of cool, actually, personally. You know, there might be bounty hunters that come in. Oh, I've come from Stanton because some guy stole Old Man Hurston's Uwu girl and he's trying to get her back. You know, like you can see that, right? You could see the this cross-pollination thing, and I just think that's really interesting. And not only that, like, what's Pyro going to push into down, you know, to the other side? What's the system on the other side that's going to push into, and what's the system on the other side of Stanton? Like, you're going to start to see that, just like your neighbors in real life, you know, Pyro are those loud, annoying, playing the rock music ones. I just don't want to deal with. And then, you know, oh, this is my other neighbor that I get on really, really well. She always makes me a great apple pie that I get every Sunday. You can see where I'm going with this really quick. Like, there's going to be little tails between everything. So, yeah. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? As in the Kraken in game.
I'm just glad that it sounds like they're cracking on the Kraken.
Yeah, as for actually making it playable, I think it really does require server meshing. And like I said, I think a lot of bigger ships have really been kicked down the road until they have that bigger ship team working. That said, the position that the Polaris and the Kraken are in is very unique because they're not in Squadron 42. Polaris is meant to be now as well. Actually, now I think about that. But if you were going to put one in game, it would be one of those two, because they don't have the secrecy. And I'd fully expect at this point, this late point, the Polaris is going in Squadron 42. It's just in the background somewhere. I don't think you'll be going onto it or anything like that. So I think if they save it as a secret, like they have everything else, well, that pulls the Polaris out. But the Kraken, that might be the first capital that we actually, like, and when I say capital, I mean big capital, that we see that we can use in game. Before the Idris. Well, unless Squadron 42 comes out before, then it'll be the Idris, the Javelin, stuff like that.
Is the Kraken confirmed in Squadron?
I can double check, but I'm pretty sure it is not. Give me a second.
I would totally expect like a mission, like a side mission or something in Squadron where you like board a Kraken or something.
It's a cool roadmap. There's probably absolutely nothing on the roadmap for the Kraken. It's loading. Hang on, I'll switch this over so people can see. Kraken. I always spelled Kraken wrong. Nothing for the Kraken deliverables. Kraken. So there's absolutely nothing on the roadmap for it at all. So that just shows you how far down the road the Kraken is. It doesn't exist. Yep. Which is unfortunate. Yep. Hit the wrong button again. Sorry about that. Right. Next question. We're getting along to the last few now. What time are we at? We are at... Man, we're going to finish early today. Might get 3 hours instead of 4 hours for a change. All right. Do you think that the Ranger will be available LTI tokens as they were seen in the holodeck images? So earlier this year in ISCs, the Ranger was seen in the background of screenshots. So there is definitely someone working on the Ranger. It could be in Invictus. It could not. But if it's in the holodeck, that just means it's being worked on. That doesn't mean it's that doesn't mean it's coming in Invictus. That tells me because it's a hollow image, it's not ready yet. I don't know. Does it tell you the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's been like the Endeavor's been a hot image for how long, right? So yeah, I don't think it means much.
Yeah, it just means that it's had its model updated essentially. So yeah, yeah, but it definitely means it's being worked on at some level. So that's not a bad thing.
But yeah, in the same way that like the dragonflies have been LTI tokens in the past, I don't see why not.
All right. So by the way, we just go through the questions order they come in. These questions that we're looking at now came in like half an hour ago. So yeah, just the order.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we're not like we do them detailed. We don't do them short. So yeah. Drelius Indominus says, question: do you think the Starfarer Gemini will become a great ship in the future?
Personally, I think that as soon as Pyro is live, the Starfarers will be incredibly useful. That's my hope.
Especially
if not, then like.
Especially the smaller ships. And I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised to see Crucibles and Starfarers going around together. Oh, that guy's been running out of fuel. Oh, that guy's banged up a bit. You know, I'll repair him, you refuel him. You know, bit of a mechanics workshop analogy. I do think because the Starfarer is also a gas collector, there are other gas collectors coming, right? So you'll obviously get a capital, a medium, and a small for that. But if you do the math, the top two gas collectors, you essentially get gas from space or in planets. So I think the reason why they've given the Starfarer other stuff is that the big one would tread on it way too much. Like, it's like, why would you buy a Starfarer when you can just get the one that does the entire nebula? You know, or I've nicknamed it the nebula, because it can literally just suck up an entire nebula, but then its restriction, much like the Orion, is it might be too heavy to go into the atmosphere of a gas giant because it might fall into it because it's too heavy, right? So that pulls things back into the domain of the Starfarer, and maybe the smaller ones. So the smaller ones, their advantage is they can land on the planet and get gas from underground, which the Starfarer obviously is not the best at because it's so big. So yeah, every ship for its place and stuff like that. So yeah, yeah. So for me, the Starfarer, once it gets a rework, it is very jack of all trades. Like that. Algared and I've talked it quite a bit. Like, it's got 20 jump seats. What the fuck? Are you going to use that thing as a drop ship? Yeah, like drop seats, like fold down seats. Apparently, it's got 20 of them. Last time I talked to Algared, he counted them. Apparently, it's 20 of them, just around the outside of the cargo bay, right? Okay. You know, you can also see that thing taking, like, landing and a bunch of rocks driving out, and they just surface mine, bring all their shit back, and it instantly refines it.
Yeah.
You know, so there's some really weird concepts with that ship. You know, it needs a complete rework of the layout because it was built
the internals are a nightmare. Yeah,
it was built like a Counter-Strike level. Like it was designed to show off things, and they were learning. They were learning. You know, so they've even said they're gonna rework the internals of it. So how far down the road that is another question. But I'd have to imagine it's pretty far down the road because it's functional as it is. It's just an update.
Exactly. It should see, you know, life in Pyro. Like, if it doesn't, then there's something wrong.
Well, for me, if I did a complete rework of that ship, they actually have a concept where you know the spheres that it has right now for liquid or cylinders. There's also one with square boxes on it for solids. So instead of it having a second cargo bay, I would have just removed the cargo bay completely and maybe add 2 more, you know, so you can have square boxes or round boxes, all the refineries. And it just becomes, it just becomes this carrier ship that carries shit. I don't think you need that really big fuck off cargo bay that it's got right now. I think you could chop that, and bring that, you don't really need to make the ship physically smaller. It's just chop that off and make it more bespoke cargo, because putting that ship into a niche is better for it. And the thing that becomes it becomes a bit of a refinery, solids or gas transporter, and you have to pick and choose. It gives you player choice, because then you can customize. You can have 2 square ones and 2 round ones, and you know, you can pick and choose. Where at the moment it's doing too much. Like I said, why does it have 20 jump seats? That's crazy.
Very weird. It's very weird.
Can you see
Even
that?
I jumped
Can
in.
you see that in a mission? It's like, oh, it's just a staff area, and it actually lands, and like 20 troops pile out, and they take over the entire facility. I can see that. I can totally see that. Oh, it's just a staff area. It's got nothing to worry about. That thing's, you know, it's only got, what the hell? It's got 20 people on it. Like, and they just scan it. It's like, shit, play that thing up. You know? Anyway.
Yeah, I fully expect lots of hijinks in Pyro with refueling and like, you know, spoofed calls, you know, to lure people in and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think I've just realized what might have happened with Algared. I'll tell you after this. So I've just, after we finish, because I think I've just had, I figured what might have happened. All right, Hawkeye, question. Can Argo be the large salvage ship? And I want them to use UFO design ship. Absolutely. Absolutely, it could be Argo. Argo would fall under salvage as an industrial mid-range manufacturer. As for the UFO, Paul Jones, I believe his name was, that recently left CIG towards the beginning or the end of last year, beginning of this year or end of last year. He was pushing for a UFO ship for years, and Chris Roberts wouldn't have it. So I think you're very unlikely to get a UFO ship, because Chris seems to be very opposed to it. So yeah. I don't know. What about you? What would you see Argo as a salvage manufacturer, or what ship do you?
What do you guys mean by the UFO design?
So there was a. What are these things? I'm going to try and find Argo UFO images. There it is. There. Just open this and I'll transfer us over. Hold on. There we go.
Interesting.
So that is. Wait, didn't transfer it. Damn it. Wrong button. There we go. So this is a ship. They showed this on ISC one year. I don't know. Wait. 2018 abandoned ship, no longer in development. There you go. So that's how long ago. This is like 5 years ago. And this was an Argo UFO. And I think this was. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but this was originally like what the mole was going to be. I think that's how long ago this was. And he pitched this whole idea, and they obviously did a lot of work on it, right? Like, by the way, this was animated. It did move and articulate and all that, and all these little things come out and fold in. So like when it was all folded up, it was a disc, and then like these pieces would come out and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. I didn't mind it. And I think he kind of slipped it to Disco to try and get people to help him get a UFO one pushed through under Chris Roberts. But Chris just doesn't seem to be a fan of the whole UFO concept. And I must be honest, it is a big departure from the other Argo designs.
That's the thing for me, is I don't think this would ever be realized in this iteration of it. You know, maybe down the line they rework it and they bring in that Argo design style and box it out.
I'm going to be honest, it's almost a completely new manufacturer. Like you change it from orange, just say it was
100%.
green or something. It's a whole new manufacturer. It's so different from anything else we've seen. I get where you're coming from though. Like I see the appeal of the disc thing. But gonna be honest with you, wouldn't it be really cool if this was like a Gathak design, or you know, the aliens behind the banner, or the Vandal, and they've just you find out later that they visited Earth like 1,000 years ago, and they found this place called Area 51. You know,
they started doing stuff like that and tying things together, man. That'd be like I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. And you know, the people that came were lost and never found again. And they get to Earth and they're like, "What the fuck? This is where Barry got lost. This is where Barry disappeared. What did you do to Barry?" You can see some funny stories going there pretty quick. Anyway, alrighty, we're getting down. Larium says, "Could the Miss Fury be the spaceship equivalent of the Nova tank? A spaceship tank. There was a tank movie a few years ago called Fury." Absolutely. They can make it anything they want to make it. But ballistics that big in space, I would say that would be a ship that you could only use in atmosphere. I don't know about you. I'm thinking that through. You put a Nova tank barrel on a ship. Isn't the
Nova tank?
It's a mini Perseus, is it not? All of a sudden?
So kind of like an Ion, but ballistic. No, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it'd be like a Side 7 ballistic, but instead of being like the minigun, so it's just another version. Well, I guess they could have another. I know it's not the Ares, but say it was called the Fury, and it's a different size 7 gun, but it's different caliber. So the laser to the
like, more like a cannon instead of a repeater, or
well, you could have if you had two variants of it, you could have a rapid firing laser, which is the opposite of the ion, but then it makes it more close range, and maybe that one does have armor. And then you have a ballistic one that sits at the back, and so essentially the opposite of the Ares.
Yeah, I mean, personally, just from my experience, I wouldn't want to see them, like figure out the balance with the Ares and the Inferno now before they start adding more like weird size 7 weapons with engines attached to them, kind of a thing. But I mean,
I keep coming back to that moving of the Hurricane. So either the Hurricane moved because they knew it was too good a value of a ship, totally give it that, or they moved it because they knew another ship was coming at around the $190 price point. So it was either because of the Fury or because of the Scorpius reasons. Either or. Who'd have thought? Anyway. All right.
Cool.
Next one.
So, Foxtrot asks, how do you think mines and the ships that deploy them will affect how we protect industrial operations? Will there be enough mines in a Nautilus to even act as an early warning system?
Yeah, there will.
Sure.
And you've got the Sentry turrets that can drop as well, and not most ships can carry a mine, but it's a lot slower to deploy. So the Nautilus can deploy a lot quicker than others and stuff like that. So yeah, but mines do have to be maintained, just like those beacons we were talking about right back at the very start of the episode. Yeah. So it's a maintaining game too. The Nautilus will have to go out and use drones to maintain them. You could put a drone in the back of a cutter, but you've got to have the required things on board to control the drone. So you could essentially use a Vulcan to maintain an asteroid field once a Nautilus has deployed the field.
That would be very, I mean, it all makes so much sense. Like if you look at the salvage contract stuff that they want to do in 319, imagine if you had some kind of mine deploying vehicle for that kind of stuff. Then you'd literally go into the salvage contract zone, deploy mines around it, and then safely do your mining.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
So we've got about 8 questions left. So just remember, as I said, when the questions run out, we're going. We are usually we always aim for 3 hours, right? End up usually going for 4. So if the questions run out, I'm wrapping it up, but that's all good because that means I get to go have a bit of a break. And VoiDude, what time is it for you? We must be coming up to about 1. Almost?
Yeah, 1 a.m. Yeah.
So VoiDude gets to sleep in or go to bed early. All right. What are we up to, Henrik? Henrik, question: what is your first 6 solar systems that were released theories? So this actually goes back many years. Algared and I talked about the line of 5. We're one of the very first to do so. And that is still the running theory. You hear Astropub talk about it, Space Tomato, Board Gamer, everyone will call it the line of 5. And that was actually coined by us. But yeah, the line of 5 is everything from Terra all the way to Odin and all the jump points in between. And then you start looking at that and you go, well, what would they do off that? So you imagine you have this line and then they start to go out from there in every direction. And you could start to very quickly see systems that would move to because they're either similar to what they have or they give a whole new gameplay depending on where they want to go. So one, if they've already got the assets, one team can go into stuff that they already know, but then the programmers might want to go here so they can get, you know what I mean? So different teams will go to different places. But the only other one that's not in the line of 5 is Lear, and that's the one with the really big worm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
the Dune planet.
Yeah, so they're essentially the 6 planets that we really know about in game that they've actively worked on. For example, we haven't seen them do any work on Earth, none.
Yeah.
But we know all of those. Odin is the system that Squadron 42 set in. They've actually stated that when it comes into the PU, it'll be like 10 years after the events of Squadron 42. So, say Shubin, I'm making shit up here, right? So don't anyone freak out. Say they completely destroy Shubin during the course of their campaign, you would then be able to go in and see Shubin all destroyed. So cause and effect. There'll definitely be things that happen in that carry over into the persistent universe, which I find very interesting. I don't know. What about you? What do you reckon the sixth planet be? That's the tough one because there's so many could be. I've just given up guessing at this point.
I mean, the ones that you've literally mentioned are the only ones that I'm like consciously aware of, right?
Yep.
Anything else beyond that, I would have to go and look and be like, oh, okay, cool. Read up some lore about it, check the arc star map, whatever.
It's with Lear and the worm. It's like they wanted something for CitizenCon and they knew worms were on Lear, so they just made Lear. And I just think it's this random thing, and they've kind of gone, oh, that was a lot of a wasted time because they can't come back and use any of that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever they had at the time in terms of like, oh, cool, can we whip this up into like a demo kind of a thing?
Yep.
You know, I'm glad they don't really do that kind of stuff anymore, but it's
Well, it's
cool
so long ago now that when they finally get back to Lear, they're gonna have to redo it all anyway.
It's gonna be a completely different thing. Yeah, 100%. I would literally have to go look up what other planet could possibly. I know Space Tomato has referenced the Garden a couple of times because it's the Garden or whatever. The planets that you see in Arena Commander, right? So Vanderval, what system is that in?
Vanderval is a.
Since they have that, like that stuff exists beyond simple concept. They've rendered stuff. They've got to look at a feel for.
Yeah, but they can
Broken
probably
Moon.
they can take that and put that back in and extrapolate off that.
Exactly. So like if in terms of like efficiency or what they have checked off, is it like, oh, we know what this planet looks like because we used, we made a version of its for racing ages ago. That could be a logical next step for like the sixth or whatever.
So just really quick while we're here, I always can never find it when I need to find it. God damn it, where is it? I always lose it. Of course I'm not gonna be able to find it like an idiot. I'm just literally looking for a name that I actually Stanton, there we go. So here's Stanton. You got Pyro, so there's the jump. If I change this into 2D, I do know it makes it usually easy to look at. There we go. So you've got Stanton to Pyro and Terra. Terra is basically like New Earth. So you got Terra, Stanton, Pyro, and then Nyx, and then Odin. There's the 5 right there.
Terra's like Constantinople, right?
Yeah. So yeah. Literally. Again, following the history of Roman stuff. Yeah, 100%. So things that you can see that are outliers, again, if you turn on jump points, that also helps a bit here. So you can start to see the connection planets. Nyx is actually quite a connected planet. Castra also connects to Pyro, right? So Castra, I think Paul was saying Castra, he thinks Castra is a really big possibility. And I tend to agree with him. He's also a massive fan of Magnus. So ones that are already connected to multiple things, because then it gives you, instead of you just going down one path, you go to 2. So the fact that that's connected to Stanton and Terra, and that's connected to Nyx and Pyro, and then, the one after that might be Osso because it's Pyro and Castra, then you got, if they go under Tanga, you can see it starts to roll out. But like for me, the two big, Castra is probably the main one, and then Magnus, just because it's down the end of the line. But Magnus is a big fan of Paul's because I believe that's where Drake do all this shit. Castra.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's the planet where Drake are from. But also you got to look at different types of systems. So we get the Lawless here in Nyx and Pyro, but Castra and Magnus are both lawful, so to speak. So coming back to do something like Osso makes a lot of sense because then it gives you another Lawless one and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but I do think when it starts to roll out, it's breaking the dam type of thing.
Yeah, and in terms of like whatever people are working on and want to get in game, like Spider system, right? That system is supposed to, no, it's not the system, sorry, it's a place called Spider where it's all those ships that are supposed to be like mangled together.
Yep.
To form like a landing zone type place. If they get that shit online and working the way they want it to do and optimized or whatever, they might just want to get that into a system, kind of like what they did with Delamar, right? Like Delamar was never supposed to be in Stanton, but they add because they wanted to like push how many planets they could have at once or whatever.
Yep. So here's a couple of very, very old concept images of Spider. So this is it
Yeah.
from the outside. It's meant to be made up of old chips and stuff. They're just all attached together. It's a bit of a... What did I do there? Oh, I got my foot somehow through my cable. Priority system that's just built up of all junker ships and stuff. And this is more of a closer... what it feels like.
Yeah, I can totally see them like pipeline wise or efficiency wise. Somebody starts working on something like this, and then they just get it in the game, right? And then maybe that shifts priorities and say, okay, cool, get that system done because that asset is done. Let's prioritize that way.
Well,
who knows?
If you kind of think of it, it requires a lot of the ships to be online because then they can just take the ships and connect them all to each other. It's actually quite cheap asset wise if you think about it because they're just reusing ships they've already got and aging them a little bit, and then a couple little bit of spoke landing platforms done. So yeah, but it does give me a little bit of, with the atmosphere of the dirtiness, a little bit of a Hurston vibe in space.
Yeah.
But then unlawful. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
It's
Alrighty.
a hive of scum and villainy.
Yes, very much so. All right, Citizen Scott says, not a question, just a pat on the back for you chaps and a reminder that 10 years in, we're still learned that we're getting an entirely new flight model at some point in the future. I think they understand how important that flight model is, but you got to understand there is a big difference between a single player game and its flight model and a multiplayer game and its flight model. To give an example, you don't need armor in a single player game. You can fake it. That's why we don't have our armor in game right now, because it was just, they've just gone through and go, what's all the shit we can cross off that's not needed for Squadron 42? Let's trim the fat. And that's what they've done. They've just trimmed the fat. We can fake it, so we just won't bother with it, you know? And again, if you trim that fat, you can get to Squadron 42 faster. That's why they don't fix all the bugs all the time, because they're just trying to get that shit done. Because if they stop here to make Salty Mike happy because he can't do whatever he's fucking doing on every given day, you know, that's why they do it. They just move on, you know, they make it good enough, you know, and move on because they know they're going to break it the very next patch. All right. Shinobi Trip. You want to read that one before I cover my guts out?
Cool. With being able to remove components and weapons of ships, do you think claiming ships with insurance, they will go back to giving you a stock ship without upgrades you have applied? So that'll be, you know, your components and stuff will have to be insured alongside that stuff. So if you go and out ship with new shit, you need to add that shit to your insurance, 100%. And then theoretically that's how it's all supposed to work.
And I think that'll come when they bring that insurance system in, 100%.
Yeah.
And even the very first version of it would just be pay your insurance, and it updates it. Yeah, that's it.
The claim times and stuff we see at the moment are vastly reduced. Like it's supposed to be a lot longer, sort of long term. Like it's supposed to be a big deal if you lose your ship, because your ship's not supposed to actually be able to blow up and get destroyed that easily.
And the obvious is the bigger ship, the longer it's going to take. And also one of the reasons why it is lower now is because there are a lot of bugs. And I think it'll stay. I think it'll stay at this kind of time frame until much further down development, like as we're moving towards because they want you to kind of stuff up. The more you stuff up, the more they can kind of test things. If you're waiting 2 days to get a ship back,
you're not going to play the game.
I just can't reach where. Oh, god damn it! I'm like an angry bear. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Personal problem. Just really itchy all of a sudden. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, basically with the insurance system, it'll come like everything in this game. Like it's all these moving parts that are coming in. But yeah, I totally agree with what you said that you'll have to update insurance. Long story short. All right. Anything else for that one, or should we move on?
I think let's move on.
That one we can ignore. Sandgroper is the next one.
Cool. Question: has anyone asked Algared his opinion on the Loreville rework, and if that extended to his accommodation?
No, I haven't talked to him in the last couple of days, but I'll
Did his neighborhood get gentrified, or did it go downhill?
I think he definitely lives in one of those buildings with gold on it, though. We can
Should be able to mine the gold off the side of the CBD. Just extracted.
Doo-doo-doo, just doing my salvage. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Nothing to see here, just stripping this building. That would be really funny if you could actually do that, but then the cops rock up and they just, hey, what are you doing? Yeah, that'd be really funny. So there's got like some kind of mission where it's like a graffiti mission, and you've got to deploy a graffiti or something. That'd be really funny, like Hurston suck balls or something on the side of a building. That'd be really funny. All right.
Sorry, it's an armor system.
Yeah, it is at the moment, but I think with the new Loreville rework, I think that's going to be changing. Like, I think they're going at to that fly anywhere mentality like they have in Microtech. So
Yeah.
All right. Dustin Lead Bladesmith says, how likely are there to be a variant of the ships like the MSR or the Corsair or the RSI for players trading like, say, the BM or the Privateer? Does that fit in the same model of having a ship in every size code? Yes, it does. So Algared and I, we've talked about this a couple of streams now. I actually have a running theory that one of the shop ships is going to be by Origin because of high-end fashion. We know I've heard through a few people that have heard things from CIG that they've been working on female clothing concepts and stuff like that because women are into that stuff, obviously. But I could see a shop ship that's got 2 shops on it, kind of like one step down from the Banner Merchantman, but by Origin. And for example, it's more high end. So you might have like a high end restaurant on one side and a clothing shop in the other, or much like in Andor where he had the high end antiques. So it's a shop that's high end as opposed to something like the Banner Merchantman. I guess the Banner Merchantman's a little high end, so I guess you could not have it as well, I guess. But then also I can see the other side of it where literally like a Drake ship that's just like a junker shop, you know. So
Yeah.
I
could see that.
Yeah, I'd have to expect to see, if we've got the Banner Merchantman that's the high end, I'd expect to see at least, well, we've also got the Kraken, which is also the junker shop in a way because it's really big.
True. Actually, yeah.
So it really can go anywhere they want, but I would hope that we get an Origin one because it's one of the few ships that fall under that Origin mantra of high end, right? And there's not a lot. The only other one, like, you know, the other one I think Algared pitched was RSI, which I would agree with him on, or possibly MISC for industrial with that high end stuff. But I'd expect to see at least one industrial based ship because it would go with the industrial shops. And I think you could get away with that on the Kraken, but they obviously need a smaller variant of that. So MISC or Consolidated Outland or Argo or something like that. So a shop ship. But I just think it's a really good opportunity, and I don't like to pass up opportunities like that. So I think Origin might be a good choice for a high-end shop ship, especially knowing where the Defender is. But yeah, well, not the Defender, the Merchantman. You get my point. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. I wonder what drives their decision making, right? Because you don't want to go and create something that takes away too much from something like a Banu Merchantman or something like that, right? Like, is it enough of a justification just to make it luxury slash? I mean, I could absolutely see like a promenade type things that are less focused on trade and more focused on being like a mobile restaurant type stuff that you're talking about.
Yep.
That would fit Origin perfectly, right? So it's more like it taps into that VIP-esque type gameplay that we've always, you know, sort of spoken about or heard them speak about.
I think that's totally the thing, by the way, what you just said.
Change the theme.
I could totally see shops falling under like a restaurant ship. You could literally have a ship, like you could put 2 restaurants in that Origin ship, right? But I also think we'll eventually see shops on space stations, so you'll get your takeaway and stuff like that. But then a smaller ship, and when I always pitched this to Algared, I always thought about the guy that does the Chinese noodles in the ship in Fifth Element. I always thought of that. Exactly. So the other way shops could go is you could literally have. Why can't there be multiple shop ships? Because shops are so varied. Like I just explained, like you can have industrial ship, you can have a food ship, you can have medical ships that sell stuff, so it's a medical store. Anything that is a console that we have right now can literally be a shop. So I actually think shops could literally be one of the ship categories that breaks the mold. It might be the first one where we see multiples in the same size class. Not saying that's what's going to happen, but I can see it.
It's like Uber, right? You're ordering the restaurant to come to you instead of going to the restaurant.
Oh, sorry, Nubifire's in chat. I missed what he said. He said the real question before that is, Rollo, is the server meshing possible? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we don't know that server meshing is going to completely work, but I have high hopes it's going to work because now they've sharded it a little bit, but I think they were going to shard it to begin with. So we'll see. All right.
Yeah.
Dustin Lee Bladesmith says, again, 2 questions in a row. Is it likely that variants are going to be in-store Cousin Crow purchases where possible? I'm getting tired of ships being variants instead of Cousin Crow's upgrades and reworks. This is a really difficult one for me, right? As a former developer myself, it really comes down to gameplay reasons, right? So as someone that is purchasing the ships, it is absolutely infuriating, right? So I'm right there with you. But then from a development perspective, it is, you've got to remember what I was saying, the positive and negatives of, they've done it for gameplay reasons, essentially. And where a ship needs to be flexible, you get modules. Where they want to restrict and not make it too powerful, you get variants. And at the end of the day, we can't see the gameplay reasons yet. Down the line, once the whole game's out, I think then we may actually get to see that. What about you, Void? Is that the kind of your thinking, or how do you feel about the...
It's always... I mean, it kind of has bugged me. Like in the past, we always had... let me get my thinking straight here. It's like... The idea of variants never really gelled well with me, but I don't mind it too much now, right? Like I'm more concerned about just like getting more gameplay into the game. Like that's what I really want to see. But like in terms of, I would much rather have that flexibility and customizability, and then see like trade-offs and stuff like that. But that's also weird, right? I'm kind of happy with the way things are, to be honest with you, because it's like, you get ships that are modular and you get ships that aren't modular. And if you want something that's highly modular, go and save up or get your galaxy kind of a thing, and then you've got options. Give yourself options. If every single ship was as modular or had the that massive amount of diversification just based on like going for an upgrade or whatever, it kind of dilutes a lot of the uniqueness and special sort of vibe that you get from a certain ship. From the manufacturer level down to the aesthetic, style, purpose, functions, like it really does shake that up a bit. So if I really think about it, I'm happy with the balance that they've got at the moment, even though some of these things might have come from like legacy ways of doing things and things that they didn't really think all the way through back in the early days kind of a thing. I think it's kind of like an accidental perfect storm sort of situation. So yeah, I think that about covers it.
Yeah, you can kind of see it though. They're kind of making those, so like a Caterpillar or a Galaxy, for someone that can't quite work out what they want to do, they give them that. It gives them a little bit of gameplay options, and then like let's take there's probably a bad example, but take the Galaxy and you really like the medical module, and it's all of a sudden, well, now I want an Apollo. I'm way more into the medical than I thought I was. Let's go get the Apollo, same manufacturer, far more tailored, and smaller and quicker, and gets there quicker and gets into the action more quicker. So I can see that being a thing, To me, a lot of those modular ships is when you don't know exactly what you want to do, or if the ship is too niche. So let's take the Redeemer. It could do the long range escorting currently, but the most likely module that John Crew talked about when he talked about it last was taking it back to its original form, and it becomes a dropship again. So you literally have a ship that you can now take to a station. You fly there long range to the station, land, convert it to a dropship. Everyone jumps back on board, and then you fly down to the planet.
Yeah,
that's convenient.
I'm perfectly happy with I'm perfectly happy with some ships being modular and some ships completely being not modular. Like
it's
variants of, in my mind. Exactly, it's gameplay,
Player
and
choice.
it's just kind of it kind of makes sense, I guess. So like keep it balanced and stuff like that. But I think if every ship was 100% modular, it would be a bit weird and too flexible, right?
Yep. Couple of people in chat are saying they want to see some kind of food truck, taco truck cutter. The only problem I have with the cutter is you can't, send stuff out the side. So when they open the canopy of like a taco truck and you do your order, where's the order window for the cutter? There isn't one, unless you did it directly at the back, I guess, if they had some kind of special integrated door for that variant. But yeah, I could totally see a taco truck down the line. A coffee store. Again, think of all the stores that you can put in like a taco truck. It instantly makes it a very varied vehicle, and that's why I could see multiple manufacturers. I didn't really think of it until just earlier, but I actually think that might be the first one where we see multiple competitors in that space before, say, a direct competitor to mining. I think we'll see direct competition in that shop space because it's so detailed, and like I wouldn't see Drake having a fashion store, but I would see Origin, just as I wouldn't
100%.
see Origin doing a salvage shop, but I would see Drake. You get where I'm going here. So you need to have that variety, and it goes just beyond size. So the other way they could do is, what if they don't do a 2-shop ship and they do like 3 small shop ships, but from different manufacturers? That would totally break the mold on different ships in those different size categories.
And then you have market day and all the different ships come together and you've got variety.
Yeah. That's interesting. My brother was messaging me for some reason. Anyway, right. Soundgrab, a question. What makes a good multi-role, multi-cruise ship? The Connie, for its age, seems to be more popular than MSR or the Corsair. Doesn't it come down to reasonable mobility and firepower while still being flyable in a damaged state? So for me, I think it just does more. So it's halfway between. How do I explain this? The Corsair is kind of like the Connie is in the middle, and you've kind of got the Redeemer off to one side, the Corsair off to another, and the MSR. So it's kind of like this in the middle between all of them, and it does a little bit of everything that they do. But it's just
the baseline, essentially.
Yeah, it's just not niche. All the others go into a niche. So the Corsair gets more guns, but then it loses the armor and stuff. And then the Redeemer's the next one after that, where it completely gives up all the cargo and goes full guns. And then you go back the other way when you go towards cargo and data running, but you lose guns as well. So it's guns or whatever. So it's almost like you're going through gears, and it's kind of like the middle gear. So it's the safest option in the middle. Plus you still get the Merlin, and you got variants of it as well. So
yeah, I mean, it's hard to really answer questions like this now because the state of like the so-called like fighter meta at the moment, the MSR is gonna be my go-to in the current sort of gameplay. Even though I freaking love the Corsair, it's like my favorite ship. But I think the Corsair will only really shine in like pyro or like down the track kind of a thing.
You might hate me then because I got rid of my Corsair.
I know you hated. You were saying, it's a
no.
box.
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a pizza box, right? But I do think they'll eventually fix that flight model and it'll be fine. And I thought all that through. But the reason I got rid of it was I had a Redeemer, and I had a Constellation, and the Corsair's in the middle, and I was just like, I don't have any use for it. I've got the other two that do what they do better than it does, so therefore I don't need it. And eventually
for me, it's a question of like.
They'll go back and fix the Corsair's Connie's layout. So
true. Is that confirmed? Internal rework for Connie's?
They will eventually. They've said. Sorry, excuse me. They said that they'll go back and update things like remove struts and stuff like that. But one of the reasons I think that hasn't been reworked already is it was how they did nav mesh for planets. It was the ground line basis for nav mesh for ships, which means it's in Squadron. Which means it's in Squadron 42. So if they redo all the internals, it doesn't work for Squadron 42. So I don't think we'll see work on that until after Squadron 42, and there's like 6. I think there's 5 or 6, Mark 5, Mark 4, all that. They'll just bring out a new version, like Mark 72 or whatever number they give us, and they'll update them all.
I mean, it also comes down to your intent, right? Like MSR for smuggling at the moment, for doing drug runs and stuff like that, it is champion at that. If you're going to go and hit those places, and whether or not you have an escort or whatever you want to risk it solo, the MSR is champion because you can usually get away, right?
Yeah. Well, it's
I
in
can
its
see
name.
the
It's in its name, man. It's a
yeah,
runner.
exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. And then the Corsair makes more sense if you know beforehand that you might go up against like a bigger target and you might have to put some fire down, right? Then the Corsair makes more sense than the MSR. But it makes more sense than the Redeemer, because if you're doing some kind of cargo movement, the Redeemer, you've got what, like 4 SEU or something like that. You could just like throw boxes in there, but then you'll probably explode. So yeah, it's all about like what is your intent, and because they all function beautifully as multi crew ships, right? Like with as you said, the Connie, the perfect baseline in between that stuff. A lot of the gameplay I do in the game at the moment is I literally need a ship that has got a decent cargo hold and can move. So I'm always bounced between the MSR and the Corsair.
If I didn't have the Connie and the Redeemer, and I walked into the game right now, I probably would get the Corsair, because I can buy one ship and it kind of gives me a best of
And
both
it's on the
of
cheap
those.
end in terms of real world value, real money value. It's on the cheaper end of the spectrum.
And then you come back to that later, like I was saying to you earlier today. I think Drake will probably break more, but cheaper to repair. Aegis and RSI are more on the high end.
Yeah, he did mention the mobility suffering on the Corsair. We don't know further down the track. Is this intended behavior? Is it a bug? Is it just the way that the game is set up at the moment, that the engines always take a hit and then things fucked?
If they've got to fix everything, they're not moving forward. So they just chucked in it's working, move on. I would expect that in the concept sale it says it flies worse than the Connie. But what are the advantages of that wing? So it's more fuel efficient and it almost glides in atmosphere because of these huge, awesome wings. So when you're flying down to atmosphere, much like the Connie has those big fan things, instead of this high-tech fan, it's just doing low-tech wings.
Yeah.
Less moving parts, less likely to have things go wrong. But the negative to it is it's more likely to be shot the hell off.
Yeah.
Pro and a con. Is it player choice again? So if you want to do low budget, cheap bare roots exploration, take a Corsair. Baby's first explorer, and then okay, I've got a lot of money now. I know what I'm doing. Move into a Carrack or a Connie or whatever. You can see the progression. It's all there. They're seeing it all up for skipping stones, I think they call it, or points.
Stepping stones.
Stepping stones. That's what I was looking for. Stepping stones. Thank you very much. Cool. All right.
Cool.
Next one, John Mortimer. I'll let you read this one.
Cool. What about the Musk Fury being a wild weasel ground attack ship that flies into a ground area and specializes in taking out ballista and other ground defense turrets?
Well, that's kind of what would be with the bombing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I was thinking of, in terms of that like napalm type effect, something that's like acts as like anti-infantry or a bunker buster type of thing.
You could get that too, because we know cluster bombs are a thing on the A2. So maybe it is a cluster bomb ship. We just don't know yet. Again, star bombs, cluster. You could be right.
I'm really sold on the idea that it'll be one of the smallest bombers we see.
Well, the Gladiator is pretty small.
Is a Gladiator a bomb? Yeah, I mean that's a torpedo bomber, right? It doesn't drop.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, you take the torpedo bomber, and this would be to the Gladiator.
Exactly? That's it.
Yeah, you got
precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we know size-wise? Maybe it could be Cutlass size. It could be a little bit bigger than a fighter.
As I said, chances are it's a single-seater just because of the animations they found. So, again, that's why I keep coming back to the moving of the Hurricane. Did they move it for a price point? So, I don't know. I'd be expecting single-seater pricing. So, $190 sounds pretty in the ballpark. Like a Gladiator is very similar in price to a Super Hornet. I think it was $185. And so you're going from Anvil to Misk. You got a mid-range kind of manufacturer in Anvil to a high-range tech manufacturer or industrial manufacturer in Misk. I can see that. The extra $5. You're going from, as I said, a Gladiator as a torpedo bomber to a drop bomber, and then a medical variant on top of that. You could put the bomber lower, the medical higher, or whatever, or maybe it is all one variant. We don't know. So we'll have to kind of wait and see. But it makes a lot of sense to me on paper, but until it comes out, who knows? There's no way to tell.
Exactly. Yep.
Waffle Insanity says, for VoiDude, How do you feel about the channel getting the first brand new partnership and growing community over at 10K subs?
Yeah, man, it's been a wild ride. I'm very, very pleased. I'm very proud of the channel. I'm super pumped about how things have been going. The fact that a sponsor sort of reached out to me, really, I mean, that was like an end year goal for me. It wasn't something that I was thinking would happen anytime soon. I was still in like a research phase and figuring stuff out. So the fact that it's all happened so quickly, kind of crazy. And I'm just grateful to all the people who enjoy the channel. I don't know what's wrong with all of you. I'm terrible at the game, and none of the shit I does make sense, but it seems to be working, and I'm gonna keep on going.
Yeah, you're entertaining people, man. That's it. All right, Gladiator's 165. My bad. Sorry, I thought it was 180. Oh man. So back in the day, when they first brought out CCUs, I had a Super Hornet and Gladiator, and I just bought like 20 CCUs, and just whenever I wanted to swap the ship, I just swapped between the two. So that's why my brain is trying to put it at the same price as the Super Hornet. But yeah, maybe.
Dude, I'm amazed at your retention of ship prices and stuff like that, because I literally only look at the ship prices when it's like the end of year sale. Not even Invictus, or I ignore those sales. It's the very last sale at the end of the year, the Citizen Con type, no, the one after Citizen Con. That is when I start looking at, like, what does my fleet look like? Should I make some changes?
What Waffling is saying, it's your showmanship that sells your ideas. No, I definitely put some work into
viewer.
You can tell that you put a bit of time into writing your scripts and stuff too. So
yeah.
All right, Destro says, question: with the focus of most Zion ships being high maneuverability, do you think the Santokia will be more of a light fighter than a medium, i.e. made for duels and other fights? No, I think it'll be medium, because it'll tread too much on the Zion Scout, which is a light fighter.
But don't you think it'll be the lightest or the zippiest of medium fighters then?
So basically, the Zion's thing is meant to be flying sideways. So where we traditionally kind of fly past like this and do the whole thing, they're meant to fly like this around and shoot at you. So it's almost like a flying turret, as opposed to but we don't have those flight mechanics in game, because again, we don't have the flight model properly. So the way the Zion fly now, as opposed to how they'll actually fly in the final game, is drastically different. So I don't think you'll see those ships to come to maturity until the actual flight model reflects that, basically. You got to also remember their weaknesses. They don't have a lot of armor, almost next to none. Right.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest complaint that people have with the starfish, what's it called again?
The Zion Scout, Cartwell.
Yeah, the Scouts. Yeah, the Cartwell. Is that profile becomes so big, right, and just gets shot down very easily. So who knows how things will change in terms of flight model and sorry.
I was just going to say, so to give you an example, it's kind of like you can look at the Cutlass, the Freelancer, and the Spirit for the same thing. You've got one that is highly weaponized. So it's like the rock, paper, scissors again. I use this analogy a lot, right? So the scissors is the Cutlass, the rock is the Freelancer. It's got more armor, it's got shields, stuff like that. And then you've got the paper, which is the outlier, but in this case the outlier is speed, which is Crusader. Now take that back to what you just said. The Zion is the speed. It is the maneuverability. So that's why it's got less shields. It doesn't need them. So it's using agility. So it needs to be light so it can move.
And it's still slightly different to like an arrow, where, as you said, the arrows and stuff, they're sort of doing their energy type fighting in space.
Well, if you're looking at medium fighters, the other medium fighter, and I'm going from the Santokia here because it's easier for me, right? You've got the armored version is the Hornet. So that's the tank.
Exactly.
And then you've got the medium maneuverability is the Santokia, and then you would expect the damagey one would be like the Saber, which they said is like a ninja.
So within each classification of ship, from light, medium to heavy, you've got this granular sort of scale.
Yeah, you've got that. Have you ever seen it in games before? They often have like a triangle, and when you pull on one side, it pulls the other two in.
It's like pick two,
and sometimes it's more than a triangle. Sometimes it's like a hexagon or a square or whatever. Pick your shape. Obviously, the shape will be more shapely the lower down you go. So the higher you go up, there's obviously going to be more niche capital ships. But when you go down, the whole market is flooded down the bottom, just like in real life. Got lots of cars, but there's not as many trucks. Then you go up, there's not many private planes, and then you get where I'm going. The higher up you go, the more bespoke it becomes, the rarer and more generalized they are up the top. So the point I'm trying to get at is we're talking about fighters in that mid-range area, like Santoki Eye. They're just one step above the others, so it's not that high up. But I would expect there to be a lot less, well, not a lot less, but you know what I mean? Like there'd be more play in the light fighters, and then slightly less in the medium, and then even less again in the heavy. You know, as you go up, you're moving into niches as you go up. I think that kind of answers what I was trying to say. All right.
I agree.
That next, I'll let you read that one from Waffle Insanity. Why don't I knock this one off the list?
That was just him saying that you've got to put question in the text. Then Nubify said, is server mission possible? Next real question is Rolo1. When do you think the synchronization problems and bad response times will be fixed with the advent of server meshing optimization in database communication? I think it's going to be a lot of little things that all culminate, plus server meshing.
And bugs, bug fixes. Like I still am absolutely okay. Let's be honest. I think a lot of the people here watching that are more long time audiences saw 3.18 coming and the problems it would add. But I think a lot of like the day of that 3.18 patch, like you'd go on Twitch and these variety streams that are trying to play it, pulling their hair out. So yeah, it's going to be the same thing again. And I would almost go that I think server meshing might be even more of a shit show. And Badger's talking about this.
I believe that PES is now, we're in the middle of this like hurdle where they're trying to figure out like their upper limits of PES and like, you know, really kind of push the system to its limits and figure out what they need to do to make it stable.
Yep.
And then this like towards the end of this year, towards the end of next year, maybe depending on how long server meshing takes, then that'll be the next thing that comes in and fucks everything up and then brings it back down again. You know what I mean?
Yep. No.
But in terms of actual synchronization and like the game just being more playable or like friendlier in terms of like interacting with other people and stuff like that, it's going to be a combination of many factors that eventually sort of get it there. But again, I snort a lot of copium, and I'm an optimist when it comes to the game.
Look who the fuck turned up. He's only like 3 hours and 20 minutes, more than that. He's almost 4 hours late at this point. Actually, because we have a half an hour before setup. Algared, where the hell you been? What's going on? Never got back to me. I was calling you, left calls. Where are you? What happened? You just at work? Got caught into work? I don't know. Jump on and join us if you want, man. I know it says he's morning all, got a few minutes break, thought I'd pop in. So he's obviously at school. Oh, it's school camp. I totally forgot about it. Shit. And I reached out to Badger's, and Badger's meant to be here, and Badger's computer is broken. Oh, okay, now everything makes sense. Okay, now I'm cool. All right. So Algared's at school camp because he's a teacher. All right, that makes sense now. All right. School camp. I survived 100 screaming 13-year-olds. Oh, cool. So you're being tortured because you didn't turn up. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Algared, while I've got you here then, I'm going to talk about what I was going to talk about at the start. So Voidy, did you want to talk about? During the week, Algared, I made something and it elicited a response from me, and you're the only other person I think that would get the response that I got. So I've made a second one and it's in the mail on the way to you. And when it arrives, I just want you to hold on to it, and hopefully next week when you're on stream, I'll get you to open it live on stream. It's going to come in a brown envelope with my name on the back, yours on the front. So yeah, look forward to that. They said it should be there by Thursday. So yeah, look forward to that, Algared. Don't open it. Don't open it. And I want to see if you get the same response I got. But VoiDude is the only. Oh, actually, I think I threw Lemming as well. So you're one of the only people that know what I'm going to show him. So yeah. Yeah,
I feel so privileged.
I don't know. It's not going to get. Well, you see what I mean, right? Like he'd be the only other person that would get that response. I don't think anyone else would have that. And I only got it because it was in my hands, in front of me. And I've seen that thing billions of times at this point, right? But when it was in my hand, it just changed it. And I was like, I can't show this to Algared on video because he won't get the same response. I have to send him one to see if it does the same response. But he's the only other person that would get that. So, I don't know. That's just something me and Algared are going to share. Maybe it explodes in my face. Maybe it doesn't. We'll see. So look forward to that next week. I don't know. It might go horrendously bad. We'll see. You know, like a car crash in slow motion, which most of our streams are. Yeah, so. Right. What's the next question? We're getting down to the last couple of questions. I think we've got 4 questions. 4 questions left. So yeah, you want to do the next one?
I think some of these aren't questions. The issue with these types of questions is that it's people talking about questions.
one there?
Question: Has CID talked about adding bombs to weapon pylons on fighters like a Gladius?
No, but originally the Gladiator was meant to also do normal drop bombs, much like the Retaliator. But I think as the ship portfolio, so to speak, has expanded, they've gone, no, we should split these, because then you get an in-atmosphere ship and an out-of-atmosphere ship, and it adds to player choice and gameplay. But there's nothing to say you can't have a variant down the road that changes the Gladiator so it can drop bombs. You know, it gives a bit of a variant.
Touching on what we were speaking about earlier, like variance versus modularity, like I fully expect them to then go just embrace it and be like, cool, here's a fighter that you can outfit as a bomber or a fighter, you know?
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, with those questions that I thought were questions that we skipped, we are down to the last question for today. So Robert Case says, to both of you, does the idea of private habs, I think he means habs, or haves or habs, whatever they're called, interest you? Will you be looking forward to these? So we are getting private habs. They kind of do interest me, but right now, we've just got those small little pokey ones. Like, I do think down the line, like, did you see any of the Loreville stuff they showed up, like in concept, like the internals? It would have been like a month or so.
I remember that.
And
so like mission based, sort of land on the roof and go down and do a mission inside the building.
Different levels of tech. So I'm just like, sees this one with like a grand piano and like this big sprite. I'm like, oh, that's where Algared's going to live. And then they had one that was more like Blade Runner. It was more like a celled out, you know, 4 or 5 room thing. I'm like, oh, that's where I'll live, you know.
Yeah, it definitely taps into the whole like GTA type thing. I mean, people love this. I love it. It's like you're playing GTA or you're playing Cyberpunk or something like that. I think it actually got added later into Cyberpunk. But you get your home where you put money into it and you slowly upgrade, right? You as you make more money, you get more popular, whatever, and you get better digs. What was the actual question?
So it says,
I mean,
what do we think of habs,
yeah,
basically?
It's that and parallel to that your hangar, right? Because there's more fun, like where the hab is more just like, oh cool, it's a money sink and you can upgrade it, and it'll probably tie in a lot more with the as things become more permanent and you've got like the whole death of the spaceman thing, these things will probably matter. Like if you've got that money, you're putting your money into that place, can you get the money back out? Who knows, kind of a thing. But it'll be a super cool place to put shit, right? Because of the way that the game is, and everything can be physicalized and dropped and put down and stuff like that. I mean, I love loading up, even now with like the early sort of days of Pez, and even though, you know, experience crashes every now and then, I love that idea of like having your ship and then putting shit in it. You know, like you drop a couple of weapons on the table of the Corsair, put some grenades in the kitchen, you know, and it feels so lived in and so cool. So doing that in a physical location that exists, that is, you know, where you know, your future kin will respawn if you die, kind of a thing. They'll inherit that kind of a thing. People love this. I love this. So it definitely interests me, but not as much as other stuff.
Well,
like
it immerses you in the world. Like I think most people are going to want their own personal ship before their personal hab, but I can see the reason to have a place to call home. There are times where you just want off that artificial environment and you want to kind of, you know, I'm going to more likely than to have a hab. I'd rather have a personal farm, you know, like out in, you know, space farm or whatever, you know what I mean? Like get out into the wilderness type of thing. When you've lived out in somewhere rural, like it's really hard to go back to a city. There's just something about a city that is almost claustrophobic. Like, I don't know how else to put that. So yeah, I don't know. Even in a video game, I feel the same though. So yeah. All right. Well, that is
for me as well. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Quick one. The actual Pioneer, building that base, having your frontier outpost, maybe it's org run, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That to me is more exciting than just the hab, right? I think the hab is going to have its place in like the early game experience, and then as you go out and do stuff and Pioneer kind of thing, and get a base near a node, and you know, that would be the ultimate sort of dream one day. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
So I do have to thank you. Oh God, what the hell did I do there? I do have to thank you for kind of stepping up today because you really walked in the deep end here a bit when you came in here this morning. You weren't expecting to kind of be hosting duties, so I do thank you for that. But where can people find you on the interwebs? Where can they find your channel, Twitch, Instagrams, all that type of thing? So yeah, you're promoting yourself. Go nuts. Where are they going to find you?
I am youtube.com/ at Voidy Vids, one word. That is my YouTube channel where I make ridiculous, ludicrous content for our ridiculous, ludicrous space game. People seem to be enjoying it. I really enjoy making the content. Check it out if you haven't. It's a lot of fun. And then I'm semi-active. I'm pretty active on Twitter as well. Recently, since the channel kind of grew, I decided to get more active on Twitter. So you can find me there at Voidy_says. And yeah, that's it. I'm
gonna just say something here really quick. I haven't streamed on my personal Twitch channel for a while, but I've had a few requests for me to stream Jedi Survivor. So I don't know. How would you guys feel about that? I'm thinking about doing it. If I get a few people message me and say, yeah, that's something I want to look at, but it's going to be random. I think that's the thing with me. With my bipolar, I can't do consistency. So I'll just stream it when I can stream it. But anytime I play it, I'll stream it. So if you guys want to watch Jedi Survivor, it's just Execute AUS, so Execute Australia on Twitch. And yeah, I'll be on there. But other than that, yeah, should have a show hopefully this weekend when Algared's home from camp. Most likely to be on those ships we were talking about either. So the things coming up, you know, we'll do a bit of speculation into that. I'll see if I can get, might have to get SA in if Badger's computer's not working. Or I might have to drag in one of the other boys too. I might reach out to Paul or Space. We'll see what happens. With that, say goodbye to Twitch. Twitch, I'm getting you guys to rate off to DG360. Say hello. Ask him if you can polish his head for me. And I'll stop by a little later and say hello. Tell him I'll be around in a little bit to say hello. So yeah, thank you for joining us, those on Twitch. Just getting that ready to go. I don't know why, but it's got to build the raid on Twitch. It's really weird. Okay. Taking the time. All right, cool. All right. Bye-bye, Twitch.
Cool. Cheers, everybody. Thank you so much.
All right, so there goes Twitch. As for you guys on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and with that, anything you would like to hear in the comments below, Void, before we head off?
Sorry, anything I would like to?
Hear in the comments below.
Or what I'd like to hear?
Yeah, like people are going to give us feedback in the comments. What would you like to hear?
Oh,
and that means you've got to come read the comments now. So I've just indoctrinated you in. I've given you work to do. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Tell me about your epic space adventures. How much slam have you guys sold?
Yeah. What's the best drug run hit you've ever had? All right.
Yeah. Tell us your stories.
All right. With that, thank you for joining us, VoiDude. It's been a pleasure having you. I'll have to get you back again. Hopefully, when there's another host here, so you can kind of sit back and relax a bit more. But yeah, cool. I'm gonna. Me and you're gonna have a few chats, I think, and we'll catch up. All right.
Yeah.
With that,
look forward to it, man. Thank you so much.
No, anytime, mate. Anytime. I've been Execute. He's been VoiDude. We'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers.
Bye.